support one another and take real local action.
Professor Greg Clark, what would you put in?
I do think that the green agenda is noteworthy. The zero carbon city centre, the very high quality public transport is admirable. It doesn't solve all problems, but it does, I think, create a demonstration effect for other cities.
It's not just our opinion that counts here on My Perfect City, so we asked Ellie's master's students at UCL which aspects of Oslo they would put in their Imagine Perfect City.
The commitment to keep the connection that Oslo has with nature. I think they really try hard to incorporate nature and activities that can be done outside into the city, whether that's swimming or skiing or hiking. That's not something that's necessarily that easy in a capital city, and especially one that's growing very rapidly.
The recycling policies of Oslo, it includes every single stakeholder of the chain. It not only includes like the companies or the businesses, it also make or try to generate changes in the behavior of people.
Their passion for creating the public space for public.
The entire governance system, especially focus on transparency.
Oslo are trying to remove parking spaces, and also Oslo has another bicycle lane policies. By these two ways, which can encourage people to choose other kinds of transportations, not only benefits zero emission goals, but also benefits our health.
Oslo Mayor Raymond Johansen again.
What my dream is, because Oslo, we are big enough and small enough to be a test bed for the rest of the world. What we have done with the electric vehicles, fossil-free construction sites, we have introduced a climate budget. We can try and fail and do it, and then other big important cities like Beijing, Shanghai, London, Paris, they can scale it up, and then it will count, because we are so small that our emissions, our reduction of emissions, it's on a global scale, it's not that important. But if we can be a model and we can export some of the thinking and some of our experiences, then it's possible.
Don't forget that we want to know what you think of Oslo. How do you think it's contending with being the fastest growing city in Europe? You can tweet us using the hashtag #PerfectCityBBC, or you can visit our homepage on the BBC website. My Perfect City was presented by me, Fee Glover. Thanks to Dr. Ellie Cosgrave and Professor Greg Clark, and to our colleagues at NRK. It was produced by Anushka Sharma.
This is All Out Politics. Coming up in the next hour, Brexit and the NHS dominate as neither leader lands a knockout blow in the first television election debate of this campaign.
We don't know on which side Mr Corbyn would campaign. Is he going to campaign for Leave or Remain?
Full market access for US products to our National Health Service. You're going to sell our National Health Service out to the United States.
Twitter is warning the Conservatives for trying to mislead voters after one of the party's official accounts was rebranded as a fact-checking service. The Liberal Democrats launched their manifesto today, with Brexit and education expected to dominate. In other news, tortured by China, the claims of a man accused of being a British spy whilst working in Hong Kong. Improper for the president, damning testimony from a national security aide describing Donald Trump's conduct in the phone call at the centre of the impeachment process. Good morning, welcome to All Out Politics and our second hour of news, debate and opinion from the heart of Westminster. Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn went head-to-head last night in the first TV leaders' debate of this general election campaign. Neither landed a decisive blow on the other. Brexit and the NHS were the main topics, but perhaps the most notable moments were when the audience laughed at claims from both men. The Conservatives have faced criticism following a rebuke from Twitter after the party's account was rebranded to look like a fact-checking service. We'll have more on that in a moment. First, this from our political editor, Beth Rigby, on the story of last night's debate.
This the first ever head-to-head TV debate between two party leaders. A big moment, but no big breakthrough for either man. Both Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn picking over their opponents' weaknesses. First, on Brexit.
We don't know, and I've asked this before, we don't know on which side Mr Corbyn would campaign. Is he going to campaign for Leave or Remain?
Can we ask Mr Corbyn to respond to that?
Very clearly, we will negotiate. We will negotiate an agreement, and we will put that alongside Remain in a referendum. A document here, a document
And then the Corbyn counterattack. He says the Conservatives will open up the NHS to American business.
Full market access for US products to our National Health Service. You're going to sell our National Health Service out to the United States and Big Pharma.
This is an absolute invention. It is completely untrue. There are no circumstances whatever in which this government or any Conservative government will put the NHS on the table in any trade negotiation. Our NHS will never be for sale.
Battle lines over Brexit and the health service. Are politics turning ugly and unhappy? The audience turning on their leaders.
At the heart of all of this is one very simple question. How can we trust you?
The way to restore trust in politics is to get Brexit done and move forward.
Leadership is about listening to people, trying to put their ideas into practice and finally come to a decision.
Does the truth matter in this election?
I think it does. And I think it's very important.
The audience's laughter says it all, but Mr Corbyn with difficult questions to answer too.
Mr Corbyn, there are big questions about anti-Semitism within Labour, for example.
I have taken action in my party where anyone has committed any anti-Semitic acts or made any anti-Semitic statements. They are either suspended or expelled from the party.
Splits in the spin room as to which man won, and splits in the public too. A Snap poll suggesting that this contest was too close to call. So no one a winner, but no one a loser either. But when it comes to the race for number 10, it's not just Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn in the running in this most unpredictable of general elections. The Lib Dem leader fought to be included but was shut out, and she says that shut down her side of the Brexit debate too.
People at home will be forgiven for thinking, surely we deserve better than this. There was a huge gap in that debate. Both of them want Brexit, and yet the voice of Remain wasn't there.
The first debate, a battle of personalities. Next up, the battle of policies as each party unveils their election manifestos. No decisive moment at the podium. The leaders hope policy will deliver that instead. Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Well, the social network Twitter has rebuked the Conservatives after the party changed a social media profile to look like an independent fact-checking service. The change, which lasted for an hour, was widely criticised, but the Conservative Party defended the move, saying it was just highlighting inaccurate claims from Labour. In response, the social media giant said, Twitter is committed to facilitating healthy debate throughout the UK general election. We have global rules in place to prohibit behaviour that can mislead people. including those with verified accounts. Any further attempts to mislead people by editing verified profile information in a manner seen during the UK election debate will result in decisive corrective action. Well, we can speak now to our political correspondent, Kate McCann, who is travelling on the Conservative Party campaign bus. Welcome to you, Kate. Is the Conservative Party in any way chastened by this row over misrepresenting its Twitter feed?
Morning, Adam. Well, it doesn't seem so. Dominic Raab, who has been out and about this morning talking about this, has said that the party doesn't feel the need to apologise because the reason they changed the branding of the account and branded it as fact check was because they think they have a right to rebut Labour's claims. Now, earlier on this morning on Sky News, he was asked, well, if you want to rebut the claims, why do you need to change all the branding? You could have easily done that from the CCHQ, the Conservative campaign headquarters main Twitter account. That's the press account with all of the blue branding to make it very clear where it was coming from. And Dominic Raab again just repeated that while they would listen to what Twitter had said and they would look at the ruling that the social media giant has made, that actually they feel that they are within their rights to have done this. But clearly there's a pretty big stink about doing so. And while that might not translate to the rest of the country while we're out and about on this campaign trail, the antics of the party on Twitter, the issue of trust is a much bigger one. And as you say, Adam, it came up in that debate last night when Boris Johnson was asked directly and the audience laughed at him, actually. And that's really the bigger problem for the party now, is the question of trust and whether they can be trusted to run the country, because, of course, that's what's going to happen at the end of this general election. One of the candidates is going to be in number 10. But here is Dominic Raab asked earlier on today about whether it was right or wrong to change that Twitter account.
It was an instant rebuttal to the nonsense that is serially and systematically put out by the Labour Party, and probably, from our point of view, we haven't been gripping enough soon enough, and we think it goes untested too often. So we're not going to sit there and be a punch bag for the nonsense that's put around by the left and that goes unchallenged, and we will be rebutting it, and we'll continue to do so.
So there you go. They will continue to do so. The Conservative Party clearly stating that they believe that they are in the right, and they will keep on making sure that they can put their points across. Whether or not they'll change the branding again is a whole different question. But that debate last night was the first of, there are a couple now planned, and neither leader really came out of it particularly any further ahead than they were before. Jeremy Corbyn had his own difficult moments, just as the Prime Minister did, and you saw those in Beth Rigby's film there. Boris Johnson is out and about in the northeast of the country today. That's where we're on the way to. We've left Manchester and we're heading across the country for some more campaign visits. Of course, it's a Lib Dem manifesto day, and Labour too making their own policy announcements. So more campaigning as ever out and about today, Adam.
Kate McCann, thank you very much indeed. And I'm going to be speaking to the Security Minister and former Conservative Party Chairman and candidate in this election, Brandon Lewis, in a few minutes. Elsewhere in the campaign, the Liberal Democrats are launching their manifesto later today, and with me is our political correspondent, Tamara Cohen. Liberal Democrats, of course, excluded from last night's television debate, but very much trying to get back in the action today.
That's right. They're very annoyed about being excluded last night. They say that their view, which is that they want to stop Brexit, was not represented last night, and I think we'll be hearing a bit more about that at their launch today. Their big policy headline today is education, and how they would put £4.5 billion into schools next year, going up to £10.5 billion by the end of the Parliament. Quite a big increase on the current education budget of £90 billion. Where that money comes from, they're talking a lot about this Remain dividend, the idea that if we remain in the EU, which is what they want, the economy will be doing better, so there'll be billions of pounds more to put in to a variety of public services. So it all comes back to Brexit for them. And it's interesting because we're talking a lot in this election about people shopping around, voters shopping around for different parties depending on their Brexit point of view. The Lib Dems will be looking to pick up votes in new places, particularly from people who voted Conservative in the past but were Remainers, but also from Labour voters as well. So their traditional heartlands in the southwest, a lot of them are very heavily towards Brexit. So it remains to be seen for the Lib Dems whether they can appeal in these new areas where often they haven't had MPs before, haven't had the infrastructure before.
And what about the Labour Party today?
Well, Jeremy Corbyn is on the campaign trail today. They've put out a big document called Poverty Britain, talking about wage stagnation and various impacts of austerity, homelessness, food banks. This is very much Jeremy Corbyn's core territory. We didn't hear a huge amount about it at the debate last night. He focused mainly on the threat he perceives to the NHS from Donald Trump. But we're going to be hearing more about austerity today, and ahead of the looking ahead to the Labour manifesto tomorrow to see what those figures are, how many billions of pounds Labour will be putting in to all these different issues. The implication of their document is they would solve all these problems with a big spending spree. I think we'll see tomorrow whether it all adds up.
I mean, they are promising they're going to have what they're calling a grey book, just giving their sums.
Yes, we saw that in 2017. They produced a manifesto and then a separate book with all the costings, saying in 2017 it was 45 billion a year. I think we'll probably be looking at more now, and there were questions about it in 2017. Already the Institute for Fiscal Studies, which is going through all the party's promises, are saying taxes are probably going to have to rise for ordinary people.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Tomorrow, Nicola Sturgeon, Scotland's First Minister, is expected to give a speech later today, warning that the UK will be engulfed in years of Brexit chaos. This comes as the SNP leader celebrates 5 years as First Minister. The Scottish National Party candidate Stuart Hosey joins us now. Welcome to you. Mr Hosey, Nicola Sturgeon talking about years of chaos, but on the other hand, Boris Johnson never stops saying that we're going to have years of chaos with 2 referendums and the SNP wagging the tail of Jeremy Corbyn if he doesn't win this election.
Well, we can't be held responsible for the nonsense that Boris Johnson says. I think the truth is, if you go into a referendum, whether it's an independence referendum or a Brexit referendum, with a detailed plan about what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it, you rather avoid the chaos of the last 3 or 4 years. And we're seeing nothing at all from the Tories, nothing at all to indicate they've got any clue about how to move this forward, were they to win this election, than they've demonstrated over the past few years.
But it is true that your policies would mean 2 referenda in pretty quick succession, a UK-wide one on the issue of Brexit and then another one on Scottish independence, isn't it?
Well, let's be clear, this whole Brexit debacle is bad for Scotland and bad for the whole of the UK. And on a pure democratic level, because the SNP already has a mandate, Scotland and the Scottish people should be given the right to choose a different, a better path, effectively to put Scotland's future into Scotland's hands. Now, it might be that the Tories don't like democracy. I happen to like democracy. So let's have the informed referendums, not misinformed by meaningless slogans on the sides of buses, but meaningful referendums on Brexit to determine, fully informed, whether we stay in or come out. And let's give the Scottish people the real opportunity to say, we don't want Brexit, we want to take a different and better path with Scottish independence.
But it might equally be argued that the truth is the SNP don't like the verdict of the people in either referendum, so they just want a rerun.
Well, I have heard that said by some of our political opponents, but if the circumstances, if the facts change, then in a democracy, you're allowed to change your mind. If you're not allowed to change your mind, then frankly, we don't live in a democracy. Now, fortunately, we still do. And I think if the SNP win, we lock the Tories out of power in Scotland, then we'll add our weight and strength to having that Brexit referendum and, importantly for us, giving the Scottish people the right to choose a different route.
The argument I was just hearing from Christine Jardine, Liberal Democrat Scottish candidate, was that actually in Scotland, the result of the last referendum has been implemented because nothing has changed. And therefore, because nothing has changed, there's no justification to have another independence referendum.
Well, you see, this just shows the paucity of thinking within the Liberal Party. There has been a huge number of changes, not least the Scottish National Party winning the last Holyrood election and the last Westminster election on a ticket of a second referendum precisely because of Brexit. And of course there's a third mandate the SNP government won with a vote in the Scottish Parliament. So the Liberal Party once again are completely wrong about this, and it is odd, isn't it? They only want to respect the Scottish referendum. They don't want to respect the EU referendum. This is either a point of principle or it isn't. I believe it's a point of principle. Circumstances have changed both in relation to Brexit and Scottish independence, and the people should be allowed to choose again.
And how, basically, if Boris Johnson's Conservatives win this election, it's game over for Scottish independence, another Scottish independence referendum, isn't it? If, on the other hand, he doesn't get a majority, how are you going to force Jeremy Corbyn to move quickly towards another referendum when he says he's not going to do that?
Well, I think Prime Ministers, UK Prime Ministers, need to determine are they despots or are they democrats? And if the SNP win on a mandate to hold a second independence referendum, then that mandate must, should and I believe would be respected. Now, in relation to the question, if Labour were short of a majority and needed SNP support, it's rather obvious that there would be a price for that, and the First Minister has said we would insist on the Section 30 order to make sure we have a proper referendum in Scotland, a proper democratic referendum, giving the Scottish people the right to choose the future which they want, not which Jeremy Corbyn or Boris Johnson wants to impose on us.
Stuart Hosey, thank you very much indeed for joining us. A senior national security aide in the United States has told the impeachment inquiry a July phone call between President Trump and the Ukrainian president was improper. Speaking to investigators in Washington, D.C. yesterday, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman said he was concerned by the phone conversation as Mr. Trump inquired about the possibility of a political investigation targeting his Democratic rival, Joe Biden. Our US correspondent Amanda Walker reports.
If you would both please rise and raise your right hand, I will begin by swearing you in.
New faces in the impeachment inquiry. A decorated Army combat veteran, Alexander Vindman, and Jennifer Williams, aide to Vice President Pence. Both were listening to Trump's now infamous July phone call. Both were alarmed by what they heard.
I just noted that the reference to Biden sounded political to me.
It was inappropriate. It was improper for the president to request and to demand an investigation into a political opponent, especially a foreign power where there's at best dubious belief that this would be a completely impartial investigation.
Vindman is an American citizen who was born in Ukraine. He received a Purple Heart Medal when he was injured in Iraq. He weathered Republican attempts to question his loyalty to America when they asked about offers he'd received to be defense minister for Ukraine.
I'm an American. I came here when I was a toddler, and I immediately dismissed these offers, did not entertain them.
The Democrats want to crush any notion that these career public servants have political motives.
Colonel Vindman, would you call yourself a never-Trumper?
Representative, I'd call myself never partisan.
Former Ukraine envoy Kurt Volker was the first public witness called by Republicans, but he failed to back their theories about Joe Biden.
I think the allegations against Vice President Biden are self-serving and not credible.
While what goes on in this inquiry will ultimately be decided by politicians, the looming 2020 election makes public opinion on impeachment crucial.
Inside that room, it's the Democrats' aim to convince America that impeaching the president is something that simply has to be done. But according to a new poll, the majority of Americans won't change their minds based on what they hear in that room.
Democrats are taking some comfort that so far there's been no major backlash to their inquiry, but no one is under any illusion that this isn't an intimidating process, not least the witnesses involved. In his opening statement, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman gave this message to his dad.
Do not worry. I will be fine for telling the truth.
We're still in the fact-finding phase of this inquiry. The Democrats want the House to vote on articles of impeachment before Christmas. They have just weeks to make their case bulletproof. Amanda Walker, Sky News, Washington.
You're watching All Out Politics. Coming up next, we'll take a look at the opinions in the newspapers and The View, including this cartoon in The Times showing Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn at last night's TV debate trying to ignore potentially embarrassing associations.
Once this was lush Amazon rainforest, one of the most biodiverse areas on the planet. Now it's been reduced to ashes, cleared most probably to make way for cattle ranches. New data from Brazilian authorities shows the rate of deforestation has increased by a third over the last year to almost 10,000 square kilometres. That's an area equivalent to 3 football pitches being lost every minute.
We've already lost 20% of the Amazon rainforest, and scientific analysis shows that if we lose just another 5%, the Amazon rainforest reaches a tipping point. It becomes arid, it can't sustain itself any longer, and we lose it. It will become savanna. And without the Amazon rainforest, we cannot tackle climate change at a global level.
Deforestation rates in the Brazilian Amazon fell from almost 28,000 square kilometres in 2004 to a low of just 4,500 in 2012, a conservation success story. But in the year to July, it rose to just over 9,700 square kilometres. That's the highest rate in 11 years.
You're in Brazil now. What have you seen when you go to the Amazon that backs up what these figures show?
It shows that the current policies of the Brazilian government, which are to undermine environmental monitoring and to underfund and reduce the funding of environmental agencies, has led to a feeling that people can deforest with impunity.
The figures undermine claims by Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro that deforestation rates are normal. Crops and cattle from deforested areas are entering the global food supply chain. WWF urged Britain's political leaders to commit to a ban on the produce, reducing the incentive to burn down the Amazon. Thomas Moore, Sky News.
Well, time for The View, looking at the opinion pages of today's newspapers. Last night's debate features in Peter Brook's cartoon in The Times, with both Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn eager to keep their distance from potentially embarrassing associations. Philip Johnson, writing in the Daily Telegraph, warns against too many spending promises, saying our children will be the losers if profligacy replaces prudence. But in the Times, Lord Finkelstein, Daniel Finkelstein, the Conservative peer, warns politicians this election isn't about new policies, pointing to polling suggesting that only 1% of people have registered the government's refusal to publish the Russia report, for example. Instead, he says how we vote is tied to our own social identity. Liam Halligan raises an issue that didn't get much time in last night's debate, but about which he's recently written a book: housing. Politicians can't ignore the agonies of Generation Rent, he says. Whilst George Monbiot says that he'll take Labour dithering on Brexit over Conservative cruelty. That's in today's Guardian. In the Eye newspaper, Yasmin Alibhai-Brown highlights the difficult weeks that both Prince Andrew and Boris Johnson have had, adding that both, she believes, are arrogant, exceedingly rich and super advantaged. Prince Andrew features in the Mail today. Did he never think of his daughters, asks Sarah Vine, their columnist. Ashley Phillips goes further, calling the Prince an arrogant narcissist. Finally, Blower outlines his vision of a carbon zero future in the Telegraph cartoon. It looks a bit like Back to the Future. Joining me today to look through all those are the Director of the British Foreign Policy Group and Research Fellow at the London School of Economics, Sophia Gaston, and the Brexit Commissioning Editor at the Daily Telegraph, Asa Bennett. And you've got Philip Johnson there, seemingly a voice crying in the wilderness as the party leaders outbid each other with spending promises.
Completely. When we saw last night Boris Johnson mocking Jeremy Corbyn for not just wanting to grow a money tree, but a forest of money trees, Phil Johnson is sticking up for the lumberjacks who want to, cut that down.
He says Boris Johnson's got a forest of money trees.
He's not even impressed by the Conservative money trees. Too big for him. And it is remarkable and very worthwhile to bring this up because many Conservative readers and readers of our paper will agree with him. But admittedly, they see that two things. One, perhaps this is a symptom of how Jeremy Corbyn has dragged his politics leftwards, and that the Tories then have decided that they have to respond to this by seeming more profligate, by seeming to loosen the purse strings. Because then, too, if you think back to when David Cameron used to run campaigns against Gordon Brown, in which he would say, oh, you know, a picture of a baby, I think it was conceived, and they'd say, ah, yes, the baby has mother's nose and Gordon Brown's debt. You know, that's sort of the same message. Our children will be the losers from all this.
Are they as bad as each other, spending money they don't have?
Well, I think that both parties really took as a lesson from the referendum this idea that perhaps austerity had gone too far. And I think there probably is a common consensus around that now. I do think that this sort of freebie culture in this election that we're seeing, really flagrant spending promises from both sides, is quite a slippery slope. It is there is a sense of short-termism around it, this idea of let's just give the people what they want now. We don't really have to think about the future because politics is in such a chaotic period right now. Who knows who'll be in power then? It might be their problem. And it is really interesting if you think back to the language around the austerity, it was very much that we have a moral duty for the future generations. That seems to have gone now.
Boris Johnson made a point last night that he's actually called off some of the tax cuts that he's promised in the past, which he suggests gives him more money. Jeremy Corbyn's quite open, he's going to put up taxes. So is either of them more credible?
Well, it was, I did find that personally rather bizarre when Boris Johnson decided to shelve the corporation tax cuts, because obviously a key strand of Conservative philosophy
changes as well.
Oh, indeed, because obviously the idea was that if you cut taxes, his philosophy used to be, it would pay for itself almost. And so instead he's saying, oh no, actually, to pay for more money for the NHS, this is why I'm doing it. The only way I can rationalise this is by the fact that if you have a Conservative Prime Minister saying, I will not give more money to corporations to pay for the NHS, it's brilliant optics. It helps neutralise Labour's argument that that's all the Conservatives want to do. And given we're in an election campaign, then he can always afterwards, you know, bring the corporation tax cuts off the shelf and dust that off again.
Hey, do you think a thing to choose between the one who's not doing tax cuts, the other one's going to put taxes up in terms of credibility?
Well, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? There is a sense that both parties are essentially saying to the voters, none of you will have to pay for anything. Nobody, there will be no trade-offs with any of these policies. Both parties seem to have magic money trees, magic money forests, whatever the terminology.
Well, interest rates are low, we keep on being told, so we can borrow.
I just think that all of this at some point is going to have to be paid for, and essentially what you're doing is just passing the buck on to the next government, whomever that will be, to have to turn back to voters and suddenly be the bad guy.
And indeed the next generation, which Liam Halligan writes about in The Sun, generation rent, people who can't buy their own homes. He talks about how in
UK Food Standard Board, grab one for yourself today. Mama's Choice, who beg you, sir, Charlie.
Are you looking to deliver that urgent package and intact? Connect Time Logistics guarantees reliable, fast, secure and time-sensitive door-to-door delivery services across Ghana, Africa and indeed worldwide. Our services include air and sea cargo, vehicle shipping and excess baggage. Connect Time Logistics has a specialized and dedicated customer service team to ensure prompt delivery to your door. Call our London office
+44 208 291 7575 or +44 208 858 6600.
Book online at www.connect-ta.com. Connect Time Logistics, connecting the dots in worldwide professional delivery services.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Star Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
I believe in the sun.
What's the hidden truth or mysteries behind the supernatural? Do
angels really exist today? Is healings and miracles real? Can I hear the voice of God? Was there inspirations and challenges in ministry? Can my eyes be open to see beyond the natural? Can I operate in the gifts of the Holy Spirit? Can my dreams contain messages from God? My Journey is your one-stop destination to the supernatural on Star Radio UK. Join your host, Captain Tete, this and every Saturday from 4 p.m. on My Journey, your one-stop destination to the supernatural.
Online, on mobile, and soon on DAB. This is Star Radio UK.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Star Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
This is Star Radio UK.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile. If you just smile. Hey, this is Archie, and you are listening to Star Radio UK and the Morning Show. Good morning and welcome to Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Today is the 20th day of November 2019. Time now 10:34 from the hearts of London. It is a Wednesday edition of the Morning Show. So let me ask you the question. Did you manage to watch the debate last night? My, oh my, oh my. Who do you think was on pole? And who do you think gave the uppercut or the right hook? Now, whatever it is, we're going to be having a look at all that in a jiffy, go into details of it, and let you know what's happening. But don't you worry, we'll be following the campaign trail after 12. We're also having a look at all the news that is making the rounds from across the globe.
Well, it looks like whilst we were concentrating on the elections here and looking at other stuff on the African continent and in the Caribbean area, there is still lots brewing in the U.S. The impeachment trial thing that is going on. What do you think about all that? Well, we live in a global village. Why something that we need to just pull ourselves out of the groups and the bigger bodies? We want to isolate ourselves. Well, I want you to understand that we live in a global village. And there is nothing that happens around you that will not impact you positively or negatively. So what do you want? That means that at 11:30, we open the lines for you to add your voice to the discussions as well. It is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Those of you on other planets as well, I salute you all and I say welcome, welcome, welcome to the program. Good morning to my colleague and representative, Mr. Frank Davis, Mr. Laimi Koiki. Mr. Laimi Koiki will be joining us not this week, next week, God willing, after he's resumed. But to Christian Hansen Pencil, wherever you are, good morning to you. Pastor Emmanuel Chidi, good morning. Mr. Oscar Bimpong, hey, Oski, I hope you are doing very well. Massive good morning to you and to the family as well. Mr. Eric Nene here, Martin, aka Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin, massive good morning. To you, the family, and a little one, yeah? Okay, I hope you're all doing good. Mr. Theophilus Stako, aka TT, good morning to you. Mr. Kofi Ali Ambatana Latch for ECOWAS. Kofi, how, buddy? And I'm saying good morning to my brother Felix all the way in Aberdeen. Kwame, it would be nice for you to drop in a call. But massive good morning to you all. Comfort Ivan in Minnesota, Diligifty in France, Brad Kwame in the USA, Mr. Davidson in the USA as well. All our Trumpites, we salute you. HRH Abiola, wherever you are, good morning to you. To the Hammers, to the Betwells, wherever they are, good morning to you. And if I didn't mention your name, I say we love you to bits and massive, massive good morning. Aklama one all the way in Ghana, Pram. Good morning. So, if it is your first time tuning in to listen to us, by what program outline, I will bring you the quote for the day. Then we'll move on to the weather forecast and then the travel update as well. Bring you some lovely music and then bring you a quick update from across the globe. I will start from Nigeria, a quick one from there, and then we'll move on to all the other continents and countries that are making the rounds there, right? But like I say all the time, from archaeology to zoology, from Accra to Zanzibar, we'll make sure we hammer on it. But let me quickly take you to the quote for the day. For your information, I have with me my colleague and representative, Mr. Frank Davids, and let me just bring you the quote for the day, and then we'll go to him for him to bring his greetings to you. The quote for the day says what? Many people become so discouraged by their mistakes and failures that they lower their sights or stop trying altogether. Your faith in them will inspire them to try again. So if somebody is failing and you are by the person, don't give up on the person. Just continue to encourage the person. Because as it said, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And Jimmy Cliff says it's better. You can get it if you really want. But you must try and try and try and try. And you succeed at last. Well, so that is my way of quote for the day. Let me move on to my colleague and representative, Mr. Frank Davis, and let me say good morning to you, Frank. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
After the banter that took place last night.
Yesterday was a bit of uppercut, lower cut, and all others. But it was good.
Okay. We'll go into details on that. But how are you doing today?
I am doing well, and I'm just following politics everywhere.
Everywhere. He says everywhere. So
political animal. Political animal. Let me say good morning to Dr. Ebenezer Kwanga. He will be there next 2 weeks.
Okay.
He will be here
next 2 weeks. Okay.
He'll be here next week. Our listeners should stay tuned and watch out for the press conference that will be coming from our studios live. We'll be gathering media houses to be able to update the world as to the developments on the Ambazonia
area in Cameroon.
And a lot of development has taken place in the last 4 months. In August, they launched the Global Arm and the Struggle Wing in Ghana to generate and to get people. The Pope also stepped in with a lot of development. So we're looking at hosting the people of Ambazonia, and we're likely to have some officials from the Cameroonian embassy in London.
Okay.
It will be a question and answer session. We selected few people at our press center. So listeners, should stay tuned. We'll bring them update. But wherever you are, I say good morning to you, Doctor. Nice conversation overnight.
Okay, so Dr. Kwanga and all our listeners in the Ambazonia area in Cameroon, good morning. And to all the Cameroonians as well, we love you to bits. Comment ça va? Oui, très bien, bon. That's a little French I learned in secondary school, you know.
Mine is Spanish.
Yours is Spanish.
I use it to eat kinky.
Yeah. Okay, so welcome. Let me say good morning to Tilly Jau and Enoch Obusu as well. Okay, now let's have a look at what is happening on the weather front. A quick one from there. 10:42 the time. Star Radio UK, the station. Of course, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, as we told you yesterday, the temperatures come in a bit warmer than it's been in the past few days. So, this morning or this afternoon is going to be fine. I find it expected as it will be dry with a good deal of sunshine and just patchy cloud, breezy, though with moderate southeasterly winds. Tonight will stay dry and breezy, but it will cloud over during the early hours. 1 or 2 mist patches may fall. Total temperature is going to be 8 degrees, the lowest is going to be 5 degrees. UV level low, pollution low. Sunset 16:05, sunrise for tomorrow morning 07:26 hours. And of the weather forecast for you. If you want to share with us what is happening on the weather front wherever you are, feel free to do so. After all, you know what? We are a global network. It's now 10:44, and let me take you straight to what is happening on your travels this morning here in the UK. Like I say all the time, you want to share with us what is happening in yours? Feel free. Get in touch with us. As yesterday we did say, text or WhatsApp us 07539661744, 07539661744. Those of you outside the UK, it's +44 7539661744. +44 7539661744. Get in touch with us. Tell us what is happening in your area. You want to be an outright hand of Star Radio UK representing us there? Feel free to do so. Check it out.
This is Star Radio UK.
Yes, keep your eyes on the roads, I'm keeping navigated. I promise I'll be on the Star Radio UK travel update that comes your way every weekday from 10:45. That means it's 10:45 now on the underground this morning. Metropolitan, Piccadilly, Victoria lines have got a problem there. I'll bring you details of it. But that aside, Bakerloo, Central, Circle, District, Hammersmith and City, Jubilee, Northern, Waterloo and City lines are in good service. Now, London Overground TFL Rail, DLR, London Tramway in good service there as well. So what is happening on the Metropolitan line? Severe delays between Rickmansworth and Amersham, Chesham, while we have a person ill on the train at Rickmansworth. On the Piccadilly line, minor delays due to an earlier signal failure at Barron's Court. If you can avoid it, avoid it. If not, you are stuck in there, continue to listen to us. Because as and when there are any changes, we'll bring it to your fore. Now, let's move on to the Victoria line. On the Victoria line, minor delays between Victoria and Brixton while they fix a signal failure at Brixton. Good service on the rest of the line. But keep your eyes on the roads. Now, when it comes to the Riverbank this morning, good service throughout RB1, RB1S, RB2, RB4, RB5, RB6, Woolwich Ferry. Good service. On the National Rail this morning, apart from the Southwestern Railway and Southern, which have all got minor and special services, all the other routes, good service throughout. It is a Star Radio UK travel update that comes your way every weekday from 10:45. Now, on the major roads in London, A10 has got closures, A13 closures, A23 closures, A4 closures, A41 closures, Central London Red routes closures, North Circular A406 closures, and South Circular A205 serious delays. On the A205, Upper Richmond Road, both directions at the junction of Keswick Road, two-way temporary signals in place due to a best water main repairs. So if you can avoid it, avoid it. If you can't and you're still stuck in there, continue to listen to us. As we say, as and when we have any updates of any changes, we'll let you know. But you know what? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you. Wherever you are, enjoy your commute for today, but continue to keep those eyes on the road.
Hello, good people. I'm back again, and this time it's about Mama's Choice Fufu Mix. It comes in 2 flavors and it contains essential minerals and vitamins. It's gluten-free. You can grab one from the nearest Afro-Caribbean shop or the corner shop next to you. Insist it's Mama's Choice. It's certified by both the US and the UK Food Standard Boards. Grab one for yourself today. Mama's Choice. Rubedisa Charlie. Never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Star Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Listen to Aunties Mary, Lottie and Regina on the Family Enrichment Programme on Star Radio UK. This and every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m.
Some people are wicked because don't make it your business going about revealing
people's secrets. Don't be a busybody.
And some people. Today's typical family is under pressure from various directions. Divorce is on the increase. More and more of the Afro-Caribbean youth are taking to crime, etc. The Family Enrichment Programme brings together a team of qualified experts to discuss and shed light on how we can make our families better and stronger. It is said the family can do without the society, but the society can't. Listen to the Family Enrichment Programme this and every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Star Radio UK, your favourite Afro-Caribbean radio station in London.
Download our app in iTunes and the Google Play Store.
welcome back to the program. It is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. The time now is 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I bring you the first carefully selected choice of song, one that you will love, Falling in Love. And I know my princess, Frances loves that song to bits. I know that now she's in school, but she will know once she comes back on it, she will know that we are playing that song for her. So, Frances, it's for you, Princess. Okay, that is Strong Tower by Nathaniel Bassey. Enjoy it, and I will come back after that song. Stay tuned.
Your name is a strong tower, Jesus. To you belong all power, Jesus. Whenever I call your name, you always come and make a way. Your name is a strong tower, Jesus. Ooh, yeah. Your name is a strong tower, Jesus. To you belong all power, Jesus. Whenever I call your name, you make a way. Your name is a strong tower, Jesus. Your name is a strong tower, Jesus. To you belong all power, Jesus. Hey, whenever I call your name, you make a way. Your name is a strong tower, Jesus. When we pray in the name of Jesus, every knee must bow. When we pray in the name of Jesus, every knee must bow. When we pray in the name of Jesus, every knee must bow. When we pray in the name of Jesus, every knee must bow. Hey, your name is a strong tower, Jesus. To you belong, Jesus. Whenever I call you, make a way. Your name is a strong tower, Jesus. Your name is a strong tower. To you belong all power, Jesus. Oh, whenever I call your name, you make a way. Your name is a strong tower, Jesus. When we call on the name of Jesus, you will come and make a way. When we call on the name of Jesus, you will come and make a way. Your name is a way maker, Jesus. Way maker, I call your name. To you belong all power, Jesus. Whenever I call your name, you never disappoint me. Make a way. Your name is a way maker, Jesus.
Star Radio UK.
In your car,
At work,
at home,
on your smartphone.
This is Star Radio UK.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Hello, good people. I'm back again, and this time it's about Mama's Choice Fufu Mix. It comes in 2 flavors, and it contains essential minerals and vitamins. It's gluten-free. You can grab one from the nearest Afro-Caribbean shop or the corner shop next to you. Insist it's Mama's Choice. It's certified by both the US and the UK Food Standard Boards. Grab one for yourself today. Mama's Choice. Ubedisa Charlie.
Are you looking to deliver that urgent package? And Intact Connect Time Logistics guarantees reliable, fast, secure, and time-sensitive door-to-door delivery services across Ghana, Africa, and indeed worldwide. Our services include air and sea cargo, vehicle shipping, and excess baggage. Connect Time Logistics has a specialized and dedicated customer service team to ensure prompt delivery to your door. Call our London office
+44 208 291 7575 or +44 208 858 6600.
Book online at www.connect-ta.com. Connect Time Logistics, connecting the dots in worldwide professional delivery services.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Star Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
I believe in the sun.
What's the hidden truth or mysteries behind the supernatural? Do angels really exist today? Is healings and miracles real? Can I hear the voice of God? Was there inspirations and challenges in ministry? Can my eyes be open to see beyond the natural? Can I operate in the gifts of the Holy Spirit? Can my dreams contain messages from God? My Journey is your one-stop destination to the supernatural on Star Radio UK. Join your host, Captain Tete, this and every Saturday from 4 p.m. on My Journey, your one-stop destination to the supernatural.
This is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. The time now is 11 o'clock. A quick announcement and then we go on. The Grace Encounter Christian Center, aka Grace Ministries, would like to officially invite you to their 4th annual Women's Conference themed Adding Value to the Lady of Grace. The focus is empowering, equipping, and encouraging women to lead a balanced and purposeful life. The date is Saturday, the 30th of November 2019, and the time 4 to 8 p.m. The venue, the Crown Plaza Hotel, Bridges Wharf, Battersea, SW11 3BE. And the venue again, the Crown Plaza Hotel, Bridges Wharf, Battersea, SW11 3BE, and the date is the 30th of November 2019. Okay, so that is just for your information. Other announcements will be following suit, but just stay tuned and don't touch the dial. It is the Wednesday edition of the morning show, and you know what? 12 o'clock So the lines will be open exactly at 11:30. And I was going to say 12:30. Interesting. Well, once again, I said welcome to the program. With me in the studio is my colleague and co-presenter, Mr. Frank Davids, and we are here to serve you breakfast. Okay. Now, moving on to some stories making the rounds. A quick one from Nigeria, and then we'll move on from there. I'll just bring you the headlines as it is a Wednesday morning show. Now, why we won Bayelsa election, APC replies Dixon, and Nigeria fraudster pulls of $1 million hides from prison. Oh, that is very interesting. That is very interesting. It's one that we have to employ. You know how he did it. We need to see how he did that. Now, ICPC uncovers 18.6 billion naira budget pardon by UBTH, FMC, and UNIJOS. And then Omar is dead, Atiku mourns. And then I'm your good political son, Shaibu replies Oshimole. And then ex-Ghana president appealed to Nigeria government to open borders. We will look at that story and we... Okay, and the Bayelsa Kogi election, IGP identifies policemen who disrupted the voting. And Nigeria sub-pedal on new PSC amendment. I offered to drive Sowore out of DSS headquarters but was turned down, Fulana has said. Okay, let's take this latter first and then we'll move on. Before leaving the headquarters of the SSS, I advised the management to restrain Dr. Peter Afunanya from further exposing the country to avoidable ridicule in his desperate bid to justify the illegal detention of our clients. Now, rights lawyer Femi Falana has said that operatives of the Department of State Services turned down his request to drive out detained pro-democracy campaigner and publisher of Sahara Reporter Omoyole Sowore from the headquarters of the agency in Abuja. Now, Fulana said that he was at the DSS facility following an appointment he booked with the agency to enable him visit his client. Now, DSS spokesperson Peter Afunanya on Tuesday morning claimed that the service was yet to release Sowore because he could be knocked down by a vehicle if let to go on his own. Interesting. He's not walked on the street before unless they've beaten him then. Now, Falana, while reacting to Afunanya's claim, advised the agency to stop misleading and giving false information to members of the public. He debunked claims by the DSS spokesperson that he had not called the Director General of the service, who had failed to respond. Now, Fulana, however, urged the DSS to restrain Afunanya from further exposing the country to avoidable ridicule in his desperate bid to justify the illegal detention of Sowore and Olawale Bakari, widely known as Mandate. He said, before leaving the headquarters of the SSS, I advised the management to restrain Dr. Peter Afunanya from further exposing the country to avoidable ridicule in his desperate bid to justify the illegal detention of our clients. In view of the claim of the SSS that Mr. Sowore could be knocked down by a moving vehicle if left alone, I offered to drive him out of the headquarters of the agency, but my request was turned down. Let me just leave it because it just goes on and on and on.
It
is sad. It is
disturbing for me. It is concerned. It means that over here, actually, you are not safe. I'm not safe.
Yeah.
It means that tomorrow I can get to Ghana and I'll be detained because I've said something.
Against
Akufo-Addo.
Yeah.
Are you getting me? Or I've said something against successful freedom of speech and other things. I mean, I think it's totally not right. But actually, what is more disturbing is about how the law is being bastardized. No, all these FSC or whatever is nonsense.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, actually, if a court rules on a case, lawyers might be able to help me, and you refuse to go according to what the court has said. What does that mean? Contempt
of court.
Also,
yeah.
So if that is it, are these organization institutions not going against the court? Why is the judiciary not using its power if they are not in bed also to say that, look, we have given this order and it must be complied with? Are you getting me?
Yeah.
It is this day and age we still have this kind of political prisoners. No, actually, it's sad.
But what saddens me the most is now his life is somehow in a threat, because if you say that if we leave the person, the person can be run down by a vehicle. It's not like the person all his lifetime has not been there.
We've seen him. He's been
in this studio.
We know him.
Yeah.
We know how physically
strong he is.
So nobody should tell me that within a few months of incarcerating, he's deteriorated to some extent. Something might have gone on. And what is it?
And is it that they are just plotting just to hold on to him for a bit, and then maybe if he gets out, maybe you know when political enemies or whatever, and somebody can just knock you down or something and say, it's an accident, and then
that is it. That's what they want to do. You did not die in our hands.
Yeah.
You died as a result of an accident. A rundown, it could be the car that is not registered, that will knock you down. They've hired an assassin to take you down. The question is, why is Buhari going on about this? What is this for? I mean, the evidence shows that the election was won through fraudulent means, so to say. I mean, you are now in charge. Yeah. What again? What again is the issue? I think
freedom of speech.
I think it's totally sad.
Yeah.
It's totally sad.
Wow. Listeners, Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station. We'll touch on one other story from Nigeria and then we'll move on. But it's updates from Nigeria coming your way on this Wednesday morning. 7 minutes past 11 the time. Mr. John Mahama, former president of Ghana, on Tuesday appealed to the Nigerian government to open up her border so that the economic activities can resume in West Africa. Mahama made the plea while delivering the 7th anniversary lecture investiture into the Real News Hall of Fame and the unveiling of the book Pathways to Political and Economic Development of Africa in Lagos. The title of the lecture is Beyond Politics, an Economic Narrative for West Africa. He said the total closure of especially the Benin border was having a significant toll on many small and medium business, especially in Togo, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire, that relied on the intercountry trade. My apologies, intercountry trade. I am sure that businesses in Nigeria that rely on supplies from these countries are also suffering. But this has gone on. We know that it's not that Nigeria has shut all its borders totally. So we have the ports that are still operating. We have the side to Cameroon that is still operating. That side of the border is not being shut. We've not had any information of that sort. So it is between Benin and Nigeria and Niger and Nigeria. Okay, so if anything, that is where but they could still use the port. So at this time, I'm thinking that businesses, I mean, those who have ships who take advantage of that, give lower. Listen,
actually, it is very difficult. For instance, if you're going to move, let's take a typical example of someone who sells into Nigerian market. Monthly, they are losing about $2 million as we speak, as a result of the closure of border between.
Benin,
Now they use trailers. Because it's even cheaper, more convenient and easy. From Ghana to Togo to Benin, Benin to it's a distance that a motorbike can even go. Now, if you're now going to, do not forget, the interconnection between countries in African continent is very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Now, Casa Preco, for instance, it's going to be difficult for Casa Preco to go and get a ship, right? To move his goods from Ghana, Atlantic Ocean, all the way to. Actually, it's going to be difficult when a truck is there that could have.
Just in the day, could have just gone delivered and.
I think they might have to do a bit of arrangement, and the proposition that they will have border police, border security forces for now. I think it's something that have to be accelerated rapidly, because at the end of the day, if we have custom border police, and I believe the cost should be shared. The cost should be shared. Nigeria alone should not bear that cost. Cost. So that when goods are going, they will be able to check them that they are not smuggled goods, or they are not goods that are imported into. Because that's the problem. Rice and others that are imported into Benin, which seems to operate along the front line of a free port system, and then onward.
Transmission to Nigeria.
It happens in Ghana.
Yeah.
Cloves.
Oh yeah.
At one point in time, ATL and all this. They nearly came down because people were taking, and even today, people still do it.
Yeah, taking from Togo
into Ghana. And most of them, instead of paying duty, and therefore they come, they undercut. They undercut. We got a situation by even Fulani, who carry clothes and tons of them through the border on foot and come and sell. Are you getting me? So, Nigeria has a legitimate case. Are you getting me? Opening the border, yes, they have to open the border. But I think we have to work together to see so that their economy don't suffer and the other economies don't suffer. But we cannot, I wouldn't accept the fact that we should just push them to open the border without solving the problem.
Don't you think that maybe if we have free ports along, I mean, Nigeria has free ports, Togo, Benin, Ghana, we all have free ports. It will solve the problem.
No, it will solve the problem, but you see, free ports also has its advantage and disadvantage, which I don't think time will allow to discuss them. Because at the end of the day, if you have free ports in one way or the other, you also ask some dumping of goods, and then you're going to also look at revenue, especially when in terms of manufacturing, in terms of production, you do not have competitive advantage over others that get in. The other argument about that, if countries can find a way of increasing their tax take within the country, then they might be tempted to offer free port, which means that they allow business activities to
take place.
Then you tax the individual, the income tax and other things, to be able to offset whatever you might be collecting at the port, especially for certain goods. That's an argument that are we ready to go there. Another thing that will happen, which I am personally in favor of, and I've advocated it, for instance, that we should have inland free ports. If I take Ghana for instance, actually, assuming I become a leader of the Ghana, there are two things that I will do within the first season. Our farm plains will be declared as more like it will have an autonomous financial regulations. Are you getting me? And then within that area, I'll get an inland port as well. Nigeria can do that as well. Goods and services over there, you can import and then do everything over there with different rules and other things. We use it as a group pool into it. But you see, these countries rely on a lot of some of these taxes at the borders. So if you're going to do a free port, and especially if the goods are coming from foreign, it's going to be a problem. It's just like the EU over here. Look, goods that are produced, and this is the problem with this Brexit that they haven't. Goods that are produced in England, for instance, can be taken to France. Not a problem. But if the goods come from China, it falls under different jurisdiction, therefore they get taxed and other things. So at the point of entrance, whether it's Italy, London, or whatever, it gets taxed because they have the same custom arrangements and other things. We do not have the same custom. If it gets to a point where we have a same custom arrangement, you know that the tax that is taken in Togo is the same tax that is taken in what they call in Nigeria. Then we have all these kind of things being harmonized. But for now, and for like we were saying yesterday, it's going to be a long time. But for now, we should look at how we can come up with a solution that does not harm any of the economies. You know and I understand it's going to have a great impact on Togo and what they call it, Benin. But the concept of their free port is to benefit their own citizens for now. So they cannot use those channels to exploit other countries. That is a no.
Okay, listeners, it's Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. I don't know, but has all the French countries got free ports? Is that what they all practice? Or we only? I know Togo and Benin have got free ports, but I don't know about
Ivory Coast.
Ivory
I think
Coast.
Ivory Coast also has a free port. I think most of them. I mean, Burkina Faso is a landlord. It's a landlocked area, so they cannot do it. And then you begin to add those are the arrangements, like we were saying yesterday, some of which are tied to the colonial administration and other things, which they have to look at. Freeport is good. Singapore has a Freeport system, but they have a way of collecting, collecting through matters. Companies set over there to basically increase their production, and tax elements are taking a lot. Jobs are created, and they benefit.
Well, listeners, it's Star Radio UK. 16 minutes past the top of the hour is the time, and it's the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Like I said, in the next 40 minutes, I'll be opening the lines for you to add your voice to it. According to the country's anti-corruption police, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Hope Olusegun Aroke, who was arrested in 2012 and sentenced for internet fraud, allegedly masterminded a mega scam to the tune of $1 million from jail. The EFCC says its immediate riddle is how it was possible for the convict to continue to ply his ignoble trade of internet fraud from prison, despite serving a 24-year jail term at the Kirikiri Maximum Prison in Lagos. The person was behind bars, but he was operating and was successful.
Yeah.
Wow.
You look at if you look at drug lords and you look at gang masters, they do not move themselves. They speak and actions are taken. So I mean, he still has his own network. Recently, was in Mexico. Which country? That was in Mexico. That there was a battle between
in Mexico.
Between the police force and some gang members. They've actually
arrested the gang leader's son.
The gang leader's son. I mean, the boss are just ordered. I need my son back. And they move into action. So if even this country, we still have people who are competent. And still, I mean, run operations from within the prison. Even some people say the safest place because you don't get any of your gang drivers attacking you. If you have your networks properly you might be able to even benefit from being in prison whilst others do the legwork for you. You know?
Wow. Listeners, it's Star Radio UK. Now let's move on to some other stories. I'll come on this. It's quite an interesting story. This day and age, I don't know whether we should be talking about that. World Toilet Day. No toilet, no building permit. Jirakwa MCE charges. But we'll come to that. But it is Star Radio UK. Now, just coming to quickly touching on what happened, because we'll take you to the elections broadcast, various ones that will be going on. But Frank, yesterday, how did you see the debate?
Actually, the debate was like we predicted. It wasn't going to be a technical knockout for anyone. Anyone who gets a technical knockout yesterday would have put a bit of extra table into their campaign. But that didn't happen. But it was a very carefully tactical what they call debate. The first thing you needed to do was to hold your line, which I would say all of them held their lines very securely. The next thing you want to do, you actually make sure after holding your lines, you deflect every punch that is coming towards your way as much as you can, which they did, which resulted in, even when Boris Johnson was shown a secret document, he lied about saying it's not true that he deflected it because he used language, because the document was talking about, I mean, what they call
part of the NHS, breaking the NHS and selling some bits,
drugs and other things. But he then, when instead of concentrating on addressing that drugs issue, he said no, NHS will not be so. So yes, the car as we have it will not be so.
But we might sell the tires and the engine.
So he don't. There was a very technical way of deflecting exactly what Jeremy Corbyn was trying to achieve in that. So they all did very well. He threw a punch about Jeremy Corbyn having not made indecisive. That he's not been decisive. And
whether he's remain or leaving.
He built that argument when he started asking, can you tell us how you will campaign? Trying to corner Boris Johnson to say, okay, I will campaign to remain or I campaign to leave. And Boris, he knows that Jeremy Corbyn was not going to do that. After Jeremy Corbyn landed, he said, oh, we need a decisive leader. And he thinks, so each of them were very crafty and tactical, very intelligent way of deflecting and answering questions. But one came out, like I was saying, we were saying here yesterday. Look, Boris Johnson will seek to focus arguments on Brexit. And if you look at Boris Johnson, It's just like the way we have a group of MPP people now that when you ask them what has Akufo-Addo done,
free SHS.
What has he done in the road sector?
Free SHS.
What has he done in the health sector?
Free SHS.
How about the agri sector?
Free SHS.
Boris Johnson yesterday succeeded in deflecting about 75% of the conversation, coming back to we get it done. We get it done. Let's
get Brexit done.
Let's get it done. Everything that look, NHS get it done. What do you call it? When the social healthcare system austerity get it done. Everything was coming back to the center point. Get it done. And if you look at Jeremy Corbyn, he was trying to widen
the
debate. Anything that you say, you talk about austerity. You look at how our health system, our education system, so trying to go past Brexit. Are you get me? Actually, in all, for me, it was a good debate, and if the polls are to be taken seriously, which we will and we have to, then I think Jeremy Corbyn did exceedingly well, because do not forget they went into that. It's that me going to run with Usain Bolt. Okay, Usain Bolt is ahead of
you, cry.
And you are asking me to go and compare to Usain Bolt. I have agreed, because one want to wear the crown. And we've gone there, and after the first contest, Usain Bolt, I can still touch his garment.
That means that with a bit of exercise, you'll be passing.
So at the end of the day, the gap he needed to cover to be able to seen as a credible candidate compared to Boris Johnson, if they came to 49 to 50, which statistically margin of error, a dead hit 50-50, I think Jeremy Corbyn did exceedingly well, and I think they'll be happy with that. As if I support, and as someone who support Labour on this, going to this campaign, I think I am very pleased with the way it went yesterday.
But don't you think that maybe Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour Party, should find a way of addressing the Brexit issue? Because it looks like that's the thing that is troubling them.
Actually, they have. They cannot. Look, they have. When Jeremy Corbyn and when the Labour Party, I think, is the most, what do you call it? Look, where are they going to address it to? Let's look at it. Are they going to say they support leave now, or they're going to say they support
remain?
What I thought Jeremy Corbyn should have added yesterday was to add, or to actually lay bare what the details of what their policies will be. We know they accepted Theresa May Plus. So what was contained in Theresa May Plus? We know environmental issues were contained in Theresa May Plus. We know they are interested in the Common Custom Union. To actually get a, what do you call it, closer relationship, which will technically solve the problem of trade deal negotiation, who will take about 7 years. Are you getting a deal with a deal into custom union? Technically takes away the free trade negotiation or the trade negotiation with technically you have now a common market, a common reason. So I think, including Brexit, some Brexiteers said, look, we voted to leave, but we want custom union. Jeremy Corbyn should have gone that way. To able to let that, look, we're going to renegotiate this Brexit deal, in my view. But the deal that we'll negotiate, we can guarantee, and we're going to tell you that it will include a closer relationship with the EU, which will be that we will have a good, we'll have the same custom union, we'll have the same common market, which is again will rope in the Irish people to leave away whatever we will call the border that we have in the sea. If I were him, that's the areas I'll be looking at. That what will be different from my deal than what Theresa May offered and what Boris Johnson is
offering now.
Because Johnson keep on saying, oh, we have a deal ready, we have a deal ready. Now, he should have also taken Boris Johnson on. If Boris Johnson is saying that Brexit is being blocked by the Labour, he should ask, why did he vote against Theresa May? But for ERG, if they had voted to support Theresa May, they could have, because do not forget, the DUP voted to support Theresa May. It is the ERG, Economic Ruin Group, that actually voted against the team of Labour to vote against. So if Boris wanted an exit, and he thinks that every exit or all exits are exits, then you should have accepted Theresa May's deal, because that would have also mean an exit.
Yeah.
Are you getting me?
Yeah.
So for me, that strength that Boris Johnson has, I think Corbyn missed an opportunity to punch serious holes into that. That would have deflated that argument of that. And again, the issue about Brexit being blocked, he should have again pointed out that, look, it was as a result of the fact that he doesn't want his deal, authoritarian way of governance. He doesn't want his deal to be scrutinized.
Yeah.
That's why he chose to go for an election. So those are the areas that personally I feel Corbyn should have upped his deal.
Okay. Listeners, it is Star Radio UK. Maybe you listening to us, you think, oh, you have something else to say. Feel free to do so. Let me say good morning to Paranza Kujo as well, who's also joined in. To Apostle HB, he's also listening to us. Massive good morning to you all. Now, finally, before we leave the debate for yesterday, now, some people have been of the view that, look, if we don't leave the EU, then we're not sure of what bills we are supposed to pay them. And therefore, we cannot say we want to invest so much in the NHS or put it. That's why uncertainty. So that's why the Conservatives are saying that, look, let's deal with the Brexit issue. Once we are out, we know that we are out. We don't owe them, or we owe them so much. We pay, and then we can move on.
Actually, it's a flaw argument. If they are telling, if anyone is going to say that as a result of their continuous membership of EU, that's why they've not invested in NHS and other things, I think it's a bonkers argument. But at the end of the day, look, prior to 2010, we have Sure Start.
Yeah.
We have youth centers. We have all these over there.
Yeah.
But we're not in the EU.
We were.
So, I mean, what is it? What are they telling us about? Prior to 2015, education budgets were up a bit. From 2015, after they won the majority, they stepped up the austerity measure to cut out what they call more of, because do not forget, between 2010 and 2015, we had the Lib Dems who were, although endorsed the austerity, were a bit of moderates.
But and therefore was regulating the whole thing.
Just after that, we saw austerity moving, taking a different speed, as if they've changed the gear to a faster speed. Were we still not in EU? So I think that argument has no hold. If they're going to say that, look, investment, we know people are not investing because they don't know which direction to go to. Are you getting me? We also have companies that are moving. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
There are certain things who is causing it. It's the politicians that are causing it. And again, if Boris Johnson wants to argue that yes, because of Brexit, investment is not coming, who is the cause? He is part of the problem. He is part of the problem. He has been in government. It's the Conservatives that are in government. Are you getting me? If they have agreed to support Theresa May, although I didn't like the agreement, would have been out of this end. I personally want to see a custom union. That's personal. That's why I would look at if you come to. But look, they got the power, so they cannot go and blame this. Whether they exit or they have to still continue to pay some bills for some time. So what are they talking about?
Okay. Well, listen, it's Star Radio UK, 11:29. A quick one. The suspended Belfast neurologist Michael Watt carried out hundreds of unnecessary procedures on patients. BBC Spotlight investigation has revealed Dr. Michael Watt worked at the Royal Victory Hospital as a neurologist, diagnosing conditions like epilepsy and Parkinson's disease. He is currently suspended from practicing. The story says Dr. Watt was responsible for a huge spike in the number of epidural blood patches carried out in the Belfast Trust in 2015 and 2016. A blood patch is a rare neurological treatment usually for patients with a condition called spontaneous intracranial hypotension. Now, if I want to go on, I'll go on and on. But these are the doctors that we are trusting our lives with. And you go and somebody just look at you, say you I need to give you some up.
Actually, I keep on saying, I've always said that you see, when we are looking at some of these scientists and others, The scientists are not what I'm going to say God and other stuff. So they make mistakes. If nothing is definite science that this is what they've done and forever it will not change. We're told at a point in time, I didn't meet it when they were there, but we came to read and we've been told that there was a point in time they said the earth was flat. We are now being told that the earth is spherical. Tomorrow, I mean, because actually the two of us, we can't go out there. We do not have the ability to know the shape of the earth. One day they'll come and tell us, look, we made a mistake. It's concave.
That's why we don't fall.
It's hexagon. Are you getting me? Yesterday they were telling us omega fish, omega oil
in fish.
It's
not bad.
It's not bad. Actually, so you sit back and look at it and say, look, this is Nyamibum. So actually, whatever we're gonna do, whatever we have to do to be able to keep ourselves healthy, let's do it. Because at the end of the day, these doctors are human beings. Someone might have gone be diagnosing you, and probably they fought with their girlfriend, their wives. They can't their mind.
It's not straight.
So sometimes whatever we can do, I'm not saying don't go to your GP. In fact, it's the first point of call. But if you can do something, yesterday, for instance, if you look at the debate, let me go back to the debate. Corbyn was making an argument about 4 day a week working, and he was saying, look, that policy is coming from the fact that people are stressed up. Actually, if you look at knife crime, people do not have time for their kids. The society is under stress as a result of no time. Actually, this year, for the first time in the history of the United Kingdom, shops are going to even open on Christmas Day. Yes, Marks and Spencer and others are going to open on Christmas Day. Are you getting me?
Wow.
We are being asked to work for longer hours than usual. Because if you don't do longer hours as usual, you're going to end. Actually, we have stress-related diseases. Are you getting me? Depression comes in. Are you getting me? All these people go back into NHS. So the tax that you are taking from the extra working hours is being negated. By the impact is putting on the society. That's the whole. I mean, it's a whole policy area that if you can get a healthy society, a happier society, and we know happiness and productivity has a link. If someone goes binge drinking, some people, their relationship ends on Sunday morning. They call, they have Monday morning, forget. They are telling you they have a headache.
They are not coming.
If you can have a healthy person, when they are work, their productivity increases. The other thing that they might want to do, instead of the 8 hours working, they might want to, it's not going to be universal. Teachers might not be because they need to go and work. Are you getting me? But certain work environments can do with, I believe they can do 4 hours. All you need to do 2 hours a day more. 2 hours a day more. Actually, I prefer to do 2 hours a day more than coming here the 5th day. Because one, the time I spend in traffic, the money I spend in traffic. Are you getting me? So there's a whole lot of argument for those 4 hours and other. So at the end of this, our doctors, please, if they are diagnosing us, let's do what we can to stay healthy ourselves.
Have pity on us, doctors. We beg you, and we ourselves. Well, listeners, it's Star Radio UK. Now, if you want to join us in the conversation, it's 11:35. In the next 25 minutes, we'll be bringing the program to a close. But feel free, call us on 0208 133 2257, 0208 133 2257 or 58. US or Canada is 001718 303 2737, 001718 303 2737. You can text, you can WhatsApp us, it's 075 3966 1744. Our Twitter handle is Star Radio UK and our email address is info@starradiouk.com. Now let's move on to some international stories before we come to the last one in Ghana that I wanted to have a look at. This is on a lighter note. A vegan customer is suing Burger King for cooking its plant-based patties on the same grill it uses for meat.
In Ghana.
No. This
Okay.
one is in there.
Was the person in the kitchen?
You know, when you go to some of them, you could see where they are preparing. So you see that they took the burger, the meat one from that same place, and then they have the veggie, the vegan one too at the same place. You think that there shouldn't be any contact between them at all?
Okay. There's I don't know, but well, sometimes it's good for cases to be. I mean, people should test cases like this in court. But as to how he's going to win this, whether they advertised well, you advertise is vegan, so everything must be vegan. How about the knives that were used to chop the things? That means
how about the person who took that? They took the one with the burger, the real meat burger, and gave it to somebody. The same person didn't change their gloves, so they just take this one and put it in as well.
We need Apostle Jeremiah's intervention.
No, people are going to some extreme, and that is where, because it's not like when you take anything meat, you are going to be poisoned, or you're going to have a reaction. It's not like that. You are trying to say that I don't want to eat that. Okay, so. If that means that we have to have a vegan shop.
They do have vegan shops, so why did you go to Burger King? And what is burger anyway? Burger is meat based, isn't it? So why did you go? So what they advertise, they have veggie
veggie meals for them. Yeah.
Actually, this unless the lawyers come in to help us. Dr. Martin, where are you? Titi, where are you? I put it to you. Come in, Apostle. All the lawyers will have to come and tell us this consumption law.
Well, I don't think I'll be vegan. No. From time to time, I do have what do you call it? Salad.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, when I eat, I eat veg though. But I eat veg with my meat and maybe my chicken or my fish. If you want to be vegan, just stay on with your vegan. Let me also stay with my corner.
I've eaten a bit of vegan food. Sometimes if you don't have, you can't eat all. I have few friends that are
vegan,
purely vegans, and I've tried this. I have to close my eyes. When you go to Rome, you do what Romans do. I love my chicken.
When I get home, I put the chicken there nicely, and then I enjoy it.
The other time I was visiting the other one, I was having my own chicken. I actually passed through Max and Spencer and bought grilled chicken. So once you are vegan,
you are doing your vegan, you can't eat all this and just
like whatever you have, say good afternoon. I had my own chicken, you know, because I couldn't be a ruminant at that time.
Yeah, of course. Okay, listen to Star Radio UK, favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now let's move on to the White House, the impeachment inquiry that's going on. White House attacks witness who had improper call. Now you remember that after the first hearing in the Senate, we had the president saying that look, he wants to, in a press conference, he was saying that he is looking for the one who was a whistleblower. Now the White House attacked its own top Ukraine official as he testified to an impeachment hearing that a phone call made by the president was improper and had left him in shock. Now Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman told Congress that the president, Donald Trump, made inappropriate political demands of the Ukrainian president. I could believe what I was hearing. My apologies. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, Colonel Vindman said. The hearings are investigating whether Mr. Trump abused his presidential power. A decorated Iraq war veteran who serves in a senior role on the U.S. National Security Council, Colonel Vindman, testifies before the House on Tuesday in army dress uniform. I mean, you know, when it comes to some of these people, their stunts and whatever they say, because of maybe the jobs that they are in, they mean it. Integrity comes into play. But you know, our president, he's always dancing behind the scenes.
I watched that very testimony yesterday. That very testimony yesterday. And this guy, he's one person that was called by Republican. In fact, he was not a Democrat witness. He
Mhm.
was called by the Republicans to help testify, to defend basically the president. And before he started, he actually sent a message to his dad
Mhm.
and said he know he will be okay
Mhm.
for speaking nothing but
The truth. Wow.
And the testimony he gave, actually, it's not like you've been called to court and you've listed your lead witness.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is expecting that that lead witness will actually be speaking for
you.
And the person seated comfortably, you know, the leader was actually the one who took the meat.
Mm-hmm.
He turned and said, Mommy, I understand the consequences of what I'm coming to do,
Mhm.
but I can show you I'll be okay for speaking the truth. It was Archie who took the meat.
Wow.
That's exactly what
what
happened.
is, yeah.
Because the Republican expected
That he was going to
at
defend.
least, at least a decreted officer,
Mm-hmm.
his integrity and credibility is high.
Mm-hmm.
When he speak, people will be able to look at it and say, if he says Trump did nothing wrong, then we should at least also listen to. If you are listening to those who are condemning him,
Mhm.
then let's listen to and
Those who are
that is that
defending him.
witness.
Mm.
But for the person to come again and say he couldn't believe what was happening,
Mhm.
and he acted and even report, actually, it was a damning verdict.
You think that is a nail? It just hit the nail right?
Actually, he's held the nail, but as to whether that will steal the coffin, we're here to see.
Trump is big. He will just get out.
As to whether that will say, but actually, it was bad.
Mm.
It was very bad for the Republicans yesterday. It was one of your own.
Yeah.
One of your own.
Speaking
Put it
against
that-
you.
And actually, what I learned from and which you all learn from me, that when it comes to issues of nationality, when it comes to issues that borders on our countries, our families, we should put the interest of the state ahead
Mhm.
of
Anything. Yeah.
I couldn't believe that on account of Phantom. Let's imagine Osafo Mafu
Mm-hmm.
going to testify against Akufo-Addo.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think will be this thing?
Hi.
Let's even assume that a member of an MPP, a member of MPP has gone. Okay, we had cash for this inquiry.
Yeah.
Okay, but all of them that line up.
Yeah.
What were they doing? They were
defending,
Even
yeah.
parliamentarians that should know best were defending. But we still have a recording over here.
Mhm.
Neil Latin-Vada
Yeah.
confessed that it did took place.
Mm.
But because of what Parliament wanted them to do, they couldn't have come because they were protecting the house.
Yeah.
But we now have an example of other democracy where people will stand for, by the truth and always speak the truth.
Mm.
What are we learning from it? Because if we do not do that, it means that the rule of law will not work properly.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
If we do not do that, if we're going to live our lives, if we are going to live this is my family member.
So I need to defend the person, not
This is
tell
my
the truth
party
about the
member.
person.
We hold loyalties and we have to do this thing. Just like the way Professor Lumumba will say, look, the people who come to you, they are kings, the queens, and say, look, we know he's a thief, but he's our thief, and we like him like that. He would have gone to say, look, I know he's a Republican.
Yeah.
He's our president.
Yeah.
Yes, although he erred, we like him like that.
Yeah.
And he didn't do anything. He
wrong.
could have
Yeah.
acted, but
Yeah.
he actually put the nation first. Do not forget he's a soldier.
Yeah.
For every battle that he's been to, he was fighting to defend the interests of America.
Mm.
Okay? Should he sacrifice his oath
Yeah.
for Donald Trump?
No.
What for?
No. But it puts his life under a bit of a threat now.
No, actually, nothing will happen to him. Nothing will happen to him. Nothing will happen to him. Actually, we should encourage people to do that, to speak the truth. we should encourage people to that will speak the truth.
But you see the way we're going to Africa now. You see the way he stood his grounds. Yeah, he said I heard it and it was disgusting. Blah blah blah. I had to report it. Blah. Now, do you think that the way the institution would protect somebody like that here in the advanced country, do you think the same thing can happen in Africa?
That is a bit difficult. That's a bit. If you go back to even Ghana, there was a point where we had a situation where witnesses feared for their lives because they felt that the police were even exposing their identity to criminals that have been reported. Are you getting me? If you do not have that, it's going to be a problem. This man, for instance, is testifying. If nothing happens to him, what he does is he sends a strong message to people out there. Now look, you can speak the truth in the interest of America, in the interest of the nation, and expect to be protected by the laws of that country. Are you getting by the laws of that country? You speak the truth, you defend the law, and the law will protect you. We can't say the same of our system. We cannot. And
it's sad.
Look, our own. Let's assume we belong to the same West African Kofi party, and Kofi Ali does something wrong, and how would the members of that party?
Oh, they'll see you as a betrayer.
A betrayer. They will call you Judas +2.
Yeah.
Because your sins are more than what Judas
did.
Look at what is even happening in Ghana. If you take Ghana example, for instance, A+. The Kolebu issue that he reported spoke against dubious activities that were going on. How was it treated? By his own party, the party he supported. You take, I've just received a message from someone who also an MPP member. When he started talking about what they call it, Galamsey issue, and how our water bodies are being polluted, and how the current government, including Professor Frimpong Boateng, a man as so much respected, are involved in dubious and corrupt deals. What happened? What happened to him?
Okay, listen to Star Radio UK.
What happened to him? We saw how people were castigating him to a point where now there's a threat for his life and others.
Okay, now let's move on to some other stories that is making the rounds there as well. In Ghana, the pollster Ben Efson is one respected pollster when it comes to Ghana. Okay, it's only the last election. I mean, I say it all the time. Even pollsters here got it wrong. So and those in the US got it wrong. So if he got it wrong, there is nothing, wrong about that. Okay.
As to whether he got it wrong is another question.
Okay.
As to whether it was the system that got itself wrong.
Okay, that's how.
Or whether it was engineered so that all other scientific things went wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we take it like that because he has not come to say that I got it right, but the system. So we just take it as it is. Now he's saying that MP, they say it's MP for Gupungu, Ras Mubarak, was out of order for initially breaking ranks with the NDC over the upcoming referendum on local level elections. Ras Mubarak was totally out of order because his party has taken a decision and so he must follow it. He could have still stood by his position and he'd have faced the consequences. It's about like what we are saying now. Okay, now Mr. Mubarak in an interview said he respected the decision by the NDC to back a no vote he disagreed with. Certainly the NDC was a political party. As a political party, my apologies, has become has some challenges with aspects of the bill which we have made clear. I respect the party's position, but I completely disagree with the party that we should be advocating for a no vote at the referendum. So this is a person who belongs to a party. The party is looking at the thing from a particular point of view, and he is seeing a different point of view, and he wants to make his case. But to now, depart from his party stance and go and stand elsewhere and say, "No, I don't agree with what the party is saying." He said that it was a wrong move. He shouldn't have made that.
Actually, we should encourage that. We should encourage people to be independent and speak. All right, but I would even first wish that before we do that, we engage in the problem. But let me tell you where I stand on Ramumba's issue. I think Ramumba, I condemn him today.
Why do you?
The reason I condemn him is that you see, when you take a stand, it should be a stand that you are convinced and convicted to stand by.
Yeah.
I read something to you. Yesterday he issued a statement. That was on the 19th yesterday. Because the party summoned him. And I have that letter over here where the party actually summoned him to appear before them at exactly 2 p.m. And let me read that also before I go to it. It said, look, this was a letter that was signed by the General Secretary of NDC, and it says the Functional Executive Committee of the party sends its women's greetings. That is to Honorable Rasmumba, Parliament, Accra, invitation to a meeting. Our attention has been drawn to statements purported to have been made by you on several media platforms, including Joy FM, which is contrary to the party's position adopted by National Executive Committee in respect to the 17th December referendum. You are hereby requested to appear before the Functional Executive Committee of the party today, 19th November 2019 at 2 p.m. at the party headquarters to clarify the statement being attributed to you. You are entreated to attend this meeting and be punctual. Thank you. Yours faithfully, Johnson Sedu Akita, General Secretary. Now, so he went to that meeting, and this is where I say I condemn him, and I'll tell you exactly why. This is a message that he issued after that meeting. He came back to write this in, and that's coming from Ras Mubarak. He said, for immediate release, upon a sober reflection and advice from distinguished senior party members, especially the parliamentary leadership, I have come to the conclusion that it is improper to deviate from my party's official position for a no vote in the upcoming referendum on Article 55 Clause 3 of the Constitution. I recognize that my personal position must be subsumed under the broader interest of the party. I have therefore decided to uphold the party's position for a no vote in the matter. Signed, Ras Mubarak, Parliament House, Accra. This is what I condemn. Because actually, my belief is that once you've taken the stand, you've gone against the party. Stand by that. Or remain mute. If you know you were not going to be able to defend your position, you are a politician. If you know you weren't going to defend your position, you should have come out. You should have stayed mute. You told us, you assigned reasons why you wanted a yes vote. You go to the party, speak and stand by that. Even if they take you out of that party, you have made a man as a principled person. Are you getting it? You don't say we should vote yes, go to meet and then come back. Actually, we should be able to sacrifice our party for what we believe in. You get my view? I'm not saying a yes or no. I have made my point. I said I will go for no. If I will advise people to go for no because of how the impact that I've seen that it will have. If tomorrow I go to meet Nana Akufo-Addo and come back and I've changed my mind, unless I can present evidence to prove that my arguments have been superseded
and have been convicted or convinced beyond all reasonable doubt.
If I change my mind just like that, like a football that is moved from one half to another, I can never be trusted to be a principled person. And Ras Mubarak on this issue, he has proven that he's someone who cannot be a man that we can rely on. No, he cannot trust him. He's just a wind.
Wow.
When the power is coming, he moves. Like
whichever direction.
Whatever direction that
it blows from here.
You are just not an
ordinary citizen.
You are part of the parliamentary caucus of the largest opposition
party in the country.
A party has met. Parliamentary caucus has been involved in that decision. They've come out, the Federal Executive Committee of that party has taken a decision. If you want to disagree with them, disagree and be ready to die
for that.
Do not disagree tomorrow when and then you come back. Who knows? Another, if Akufo-Addo come to meet him and say, okay, right, you know what? Come, let me give you something. And then what we say? It means that even what you were speaking first, the position you took first, you did not understand it. Are you getting me? Such persons, me personally, I'll run away from them.
Okay. Frank says he will run away from them. What will you do? 5 minutes will be bringing the program to a close. But another story that's made the rounds and that I'm interested in looking at. In this day and age, where Kofi Ali will tell you, we've advanced, people are thinking of how to walk to the moon, fly individually to the moon. The Municipal Chief Executive for Jirakba, Christian Bombanye Amadou, has revealed that Assembly has taken a stance against issuing building permits to building projects which have no toilet facilities. In addition, all buildings which have no toilets have up to the end of December 2020 to furnish the buildings with toilets. Persons who fail to comply with this, she says, Christian Bombanye made the disclosure at the celebration of the World Toilet Day at Jirakba in the Upper West Region, November 2019. World Toilet Day is being marked under the theme, Leaving No One Behind. Frank.
Yeah. Actually, we know it's day and age, but the fact is that we still have open defecation.
Yeah.
We should have large communities in most African and Caribbean countries that do not have toilets. That was there a few months ago when there was even chaos between a man and a woman in a public toilet because the women didn't have toilet. And it was like a communal toilet, and the women were protesting that whenever they go to toilet, that's when a particular man comes to toilet.
You can't. This is nature. You can't.
And the women started protesting, and then the man was also arguing that look, for anyone who is having a meal, I sincerely apologize.
We apologize. We apologize.
What do I do?
When nature is calling.
When nature
you say you won't respond. You disgrace yourself.
That because a woman is there, shouldn't. At the end of the day, they have their lane. I have my lane. Are you getting me? That is how it is. It's not like a household where you have probably share the same bath and other stuff. But these are situations where compound houses, people have buildings. They've not thought of putting toilets in there. Schools are there with their toilets and actually, when you see such things, and it's not in Ghana alone, I've seen in Nigeria, Haiti, and all those areas. Slums in Kenya, Somalia, and other things. Then you ask yourself, what are we doing? Why haven't we learned? If you're listening to us, you're going to build it. Are you someone who has put up a building without planning for toilet? Then you're also contributing to the problem. Are you getting me? So I am with the DC on this. That planning permission should not be issued if the plan does not contain an elaborate or does not include how toilet facilities or the provision of toilet facility in this country. You can't come to a house without a toilet. They'll shut the house down.
Yeah,
they'll shut the house down.
Yeah.
Are you getting it? So actually, it's something that's long overdue. We should follow through. We should not just be putting buildings out there with a house is not only where you sleep, wake up and store your stuff. A house must have where you bath, a toilet, a kitchen as well. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
If you do not have those things, because whatever you eat must exist.
Yes. You download, you upload, you have to download.
You go to market, you upload. Don't you know you have to download?
Oh my! But you know, we have a problem with we talk about recycling, we talk about pollution and stuff like that. And you know, in this part of the world, they have a way of getting rid because that's been our problem. Because I remember back in the is it the 70s when they had in Accra, you said I don't know, there are some areas so they have these crewmen who come and they use the public no, it's not public latrine, but they have that, you know, that one and then they will come and carry it in the night and they go and dump it somewhere. You see, we've not created enough facilities to see to how to get rid of.
So you ask yourself, how have we learned from all that? What have we learned from all that? Yes, we know there are now big tanks and other things that do that. But actually, we need to move past that and look at, yes, the past was not good, but when we still are doing things that show that we've not learned anything, then we are being stupid, so to say. And I will say to a larger extent that we are becoming more stupid than those who were before us.
And especially look at the rate. At times you look at the rate that you have to pay when you're going to toilet. So if the person has not got the money to pay that, it's like, okay, let me just do it elsewhere.
That's another thing. Some toilets that you need to pay 4 Ghana cedis, 2 Ghana cedis.
How much has the person earned?
So forget, if I have a bush, I'll prefer free.
Free, everything. Yeah. Oh my, listen.
But it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad. And it's not about Ghana alone. Actually, as a people, we are failing. Yeah. As a people, we are failing.
Well, listeners, we'll be taking you to the U.S., okay? We're taking you to the U.S. for the hearing, the Trump impeachment hearing. I'll try to see whether we can get you all the others that is making the rounds here in the UK as well. Frank, before we leave.
Ajay, we'd like to say very good afternoon. We'll continue to monitor policy, and we thank them for staying tuned to Star Radio. They should keep on supporting Star Radio. And the announcement, my last announcement, before we go, please go to GoFundMe and then support the Rural's mission and type in RUOAZ missions. Please just type those things and type those small 2 sentences, 2 words, no sentences. My apology, and it will come. The little that you have, please support them with it. Support them with it.
Okay, listeners, thank you very much. And the last one, the Grace Encounter Christian Center is also inviting all women, but the men can come along. Behind every successful woman is a man.
I think you can hold their bags.
Yes, hold their bags for them. The Grace Ministries would like to officially invite you to their 4th annual women's conference themed adding value to the Lady of Grace. Now, the focus is empowering, equipping, and encouraging women to lead a balanced and purposeful life. The date is Saturday, the 30th of November, 2019, from 4 to 8 p.m. The venue is the Crown Plaza Hotel, Bridges Wharf, Battersea, SW11 3BE. The venue again, the Crown Plaza Hotel, Bridges Wharf, Battersea, SW11 3B, is the 4th annual women's conference for the Grace Encounter Christian Center. Thank you very much for tuning in once again to listen to us. But we promise you this evening, exactly at 6 o'clock, we'll be bringing you a repeat broadcast of the Niger Voices, since the Niger man himself is chilling out. We'll bring a repeat broadcast. But this afternoon at 1 o'clock exactly, we will bring you What's Next, a repeat broadcast of that. But stay tuned, don't go away. We're bringing you live, taking you live to the US of A. It's been a pleasure coming your way. It's been me, the one and only Archie, Mr. Frank Davis, saying have a top of the day. Bye-bye.
Between Biden and Burisma, a fact that other witnesses have now confirmed. In the weeks that followed the July 25th call, Colonel Vindman continued to push for a release of the military aid to Ukraine and struggled to learn why it was being withheld. More disturbing word of the hold had reached Ukrainian officials prior to its becoming public. By mid-August, the Ukrainian deputy ambassador asked Vindman why the United States was withholding the aid. Although Vindman didn't have an answer, Sondland made it explicit to Ukrainians at a meeting in Warsaw. They needed to publicly commit to these 2 investigations if they hoped to get the aid. Ms. Williams, we all saw the President's tweet about you on Sunday afternoon and the insults he hurled at Ambassador Yovanovitch last Friday. You are here today, and the American people are grateful. Colonel Vindman, we have seen far more scurrilous attacks on your character and watched as certain personalities on Fox have questioned your loyalty. I note that you have shed blood for America, and we owe you an immense debt of gratitude. I hope no one on this committee will become part of those vicious attacks. Today's witnesses, like those who testified last week, are here because they were subpoenaed to appear. not because they are for or against impeachment. That question is for Congress, not the fact witnesses. If the President abused his power and invited foreign interference in our elections, if he sought to condition, coerce, extort, or bribe an ally into conducting investigations to aid his re-election campaign and did so by withholding official acts, a White House meeting, or hundreds of millions of dollars of needed military aid, it will be up to us to decide whether those acts are compatible with the office of the presidency. I now recognize Ranking Member Nunes for any remarks he'd like to make.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to address a few brief words to the American people watching at home. If you watched the impeachment hearings last week, you may have noticed a disconnect between what you actually saw and the mainstream media accounts describing it. When you saw three diplomats who disliked President Trump's Ukraine policy discussing second-hand and third-hand conversations about their objections with the Trump policy. Meanwhile, they admitted they had not talked to the president about these matters, and they were unable to identify any crime or impeachable offense the president committed. But what you read in the press were accounts of shocking, damning, and explosive testimony that fully supports the Democrats' accusations. If these accounts have a familiar ring, it's because this is the same preposterous reporting the media offered for 3 years on the Russian hoax. On a nearly daily basis, the top news outlets in America reported breathlessly on the newest bombshell revelations, showing that President Trump and everyone surrounding him were Russian agents. It really wasn't long ago that we were reading these headlines. From CNN, Congress investigating Russian investment fund with ties to Trump officials. This was false. New York Times, Trump campaign aides had repeated contacts with Russian intelligence. Also false. Slate was a Trump server communicating with Russia. This was false. New York Magazine, will Trump be meeting with his counterpart or his handler? This was false. The Guardian, Manafort held secret talks with Assange and Ecuadorian embassy. Also false. BuzzFeed, President Trump directed his attorney to lie to Congress about the Moscow Tower project. All of these were false. There was no objectivity or fairness in the media's Russia stories, just as a fevered rush to tarnish and remove a president who refuses to pretend that the media are something different from what they really are, puppets of the Democratic Party. With their biased misreporting on the Russia hoax, the media lost confidence of millions of Americans, and because they refuse to acknowledge how badly they botched the story, they've learned no lessons and simply expect Americans will believe them as they try to stoke yet another partisan frenzy. In previous hearings, I've outlined 3 questions the Democrats and the media don't want asked or answered. Instead of shedding light on these crucial questions, the media are trying to smother and dismiss them. Those questions start with, what is the full extent of the Democrats' prior coordination with the whistleblower, and who else did the whistleblower coordinate this effort with? The media have fully accepted the Democrats' stunning reversal on the need for the whistleblower to testify to this committee. When the Democrats were insisting on his testimony, the media wanted it too. But things have changed since it became clear the whistleblower would have to answer problematic questions that include these. What was the full extent of the whistleblower's prior coordination with Chairman Schiff, his staff, and any other people he cooperated with while preparing the complaint? What are the whistleblower's political biases and connections to Democratic politicians? How does the whistleblower explain the inaccuracies in the complaint? What contact did the whistleblower have with the media, which appears to be ongoing? What are the sources of the whistleblower's information? Who else did he talk to? And was the whistleblower prohibited by law from receiving or conveying any of that information? The media have joined the Democrats in dismissing the importance of cross-examining this crucial witness. Now that the whistleblower has successfully kick-started impeachment, He has disappeared from the story, as if the Democrats put the whistleblower in their own witness protection program. My second question: what was the full extent of Ukraine's election meddling against the Trump campaign? In these depositions and hearings, Republicans have cited numerous indications of Ukraine meddling in the 2016 elections to oppose the Trump campaign. Many of these instances were reported, including the posting of many primary source documents by veteran investigative journalist John Solomon. Since the Democrats switched from Russia to Ukraine for their impeachment crusade, Solomon's reporting on Burisma, Hunter Biden, and Ukraine election meddling has become inconvenient for the Democratic narrative, and so the media is furiously smearing and libeling Solomon. In fact, the publication The Hill told its staff yesterday it would conduct a review of Solomon's Ukraine reporting. Coincidentally, the decision comes just 3 days after a Democrat on this committee told a Hill writer that she would stop speaking to The Hill because it had run Solomon's stories. And she urged the writer to relay her concerns to Hill's management. So now that Solomon's reporting is a problem for the Democrats, it's a problem for the media as well. I'd like to submit for the record John Solomon's October 31st story entitled "Debunking Some of Ukraine's Scandal Myths About Biden and Election Interference." I encourage viewers today to read this story and draw your own conclusions about the evidence Solomon has gathered. Ask unanimous consent that we put this into the record, Mr. Chair.
Without objection.
The concerted campaign by the media to discredit and disown some of their own colleagues is shocking. And we see it again in the sudden denunciations of New York Times reporter Ken Vogel as a conspiracy theorist after he covered similar issues, including a 2017 Politico piece entitled "Ukrainian Efforts to Sabotage Trump Backfire." My third question: why did Burisma hire Hunter Biden? What did he do for them? And did his position affect any U.S. government actions under the Obama administration? We have now heard testimony from the Democrats' own witnesses that diplomats were concerned about a conflict of interest involving Hunter Biden. That's because he had secured a well-paid position, despite having no qualifications, on the board of a corrupt Ukrainian company, while his father was vice president charged with overseeing Ukrainian issues. After trying out several different accusations against President Trump, the Democrats have recently settled on bribery. According to widespread reports, they replaced their quid pro quo allegation because it wasn't polling well. But if the Democrats and the media are suddenly so deeply concerned about bribery, you would think they would take some interest in Burisma paying Hunter Biden $83,000 a month. And you think they would be interested in Joe Biden threatening to withhold U.S. loan guarantees unless the Ukrainians fired a prosecutor who was investigating Burisma. That would be a textbook example of bribery. The media, of course, are free to act as Democrat puppets, and they're free to lurch from the Russia hoax to the Ukraine hoax at the direction of their puppet masters. But they cannot reasonably expect to do so without alienating half the country who voted for the president they're trying to expel. Americans have learned to recognize fake news when they see it, and if the mainstream press won't give it to them straight, they'll go elsewhere to find it, which is exactly what the American people are doing. With that, I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. Today we are joined by Lieutenant Colonel Vindman and Jennifer Williams. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman is an active duty military officer who joined the
learning and childcare for vulnerable 2-year-olds and all 3- and 4-year-olds. This will be introduced in full next year, saving families up to £4,500 per child per year. And let me make this point. That saving is more, way more, than any tax cut any party is offering working families, and it will deliver economic and social benefit. In our schools, we are working to drive up standards and close the poverty-related attainment gap with extra targeted investment through our Pupil Equity Fund. For students in our universities, we've abolished university tuition fees. Last week I heard a Tory turned Lib Dem, like so many of them. There are now, I believe, more Tories in the Lib Dems than there are Lib Dems. But I heard one of these Lib Dems say that free tuition was, and I quote, a fantasy. Perhaps he's not familiar with Scotland, but let me say very clearly, free tuition in Scotland is very much a reality, and it is a reality the SNP will always protect. And then take policing. Since 2007, when the SNP first took office, we have been investing while Westminster has been cutting. In England, police numbers have been cut by more than 20,000. The Tory pledge at this election doesn't even fully reverse that cut. By contrast, here in Scotland, the SNP has increased the number of police officers by more than 1,000. In fact, just to match us and restore England's share of police officers UK-wide, the Tories would need not the 20,000 extra officers they're promising, but 27,000. We've massively outstripped the rest of the UK in social and council house building as well. Over the most recent 4-year period that we have figures for, the SNP delivered 5 times more social rented properties per head of our population than in England. We've also kept water in public hands and made strategic interventions in important Scottish industries. Where the SNP Scottish Government is responsible for social security payments, our system is fairer, based on dignity, human rights and respect. And through it, we've already increased support for carers and for low-income families. Now, as we look to the future, we must keep investing. We must keep learning and reforming to benefit patients, our school pupils and communities across our country. And of course, as in any democracy, our government will come in for criticism and challenge. That is as it should be. And any government will face difficult tests. That is, of course, true for the SNP as it is for governments anywhere. But this Scottish model I have outlined, universal public services, paid for through progressive taxation, I believe has broad consensus support in Scotland. You know, one of the great advantages of countries of our size, as we see in other comparable nations, is a sense of cohesion, solidarity and shared goals. So although the Labour Party aggressively attacked the SNP, it is, I think, very striking just how much of their policy platform at this election borrows from what the SNP has already done in government, from free prescriptions to abolishing university tuition fees, to free personal care, to public ownership of the water industry and opposition to fracking. Labour has clearly been looking to Scotland for inspiration. And that might explain, at least in part, why people in Scotland simply don't see the point in voting Labour anymore, because the SNP is already delivering what they are only promising. And the fact is, Labour can't win in Scotland. In all of the 13 seats the Conservatives hold here, it is the SNP who are the challengers. So if people in Scotland want to make sure that Boris Johnson does not get a majority, if they want to see a progressive alliance formed with Scotland's interests front and centre and the Tories locked out of government, then only a vote for the SNP can deliver that outcome. And of course, fundamentally, when it comes to a choice for Scotland between Westminster control and becoming an independent country, Labour always supports Tory government over self-government. They would inexplicably, in my view, rather see Scotland's future in Boris Johnson's hands than in the hands of the people of Scotland. Although their policy on whether to give people the right to choose their own future in a new independence referendum seems, if I can be charitable, to change with the wind, there is no doubt where they stand on the substantive question. Therefore, Westminster control every time, no matter how many Tory governments we get and no matter how much damage the Tories do to Scotland. And make no mistake, it is now crystal clear that continued Westminster control means multiple threats to Scotland, to our economy and our living standards, to our NHS and our other public services. And that is why this election is so vital. It will determine what path Scotland takes. Will these threats become reality, or will we decide differently by taking our future into our hands rather than leaving it in the hands of Boris Johnson and a broken Westminster system? Let me outline 3 of those threats and how a vote for the SNP can head them off. First of all, there is the direct economic threat of Brexit. Leaving the EU will mean lower economic growth and therefore lower tax revenues to fund our public services. By the end of the next decade, a trade deal like the one favoured by Boris Johnson could wipe £9 billion from the Scottish economy relative to EU membership. And leaving with no trade deal, which is still a distinct possibility, could see that rise to £12.7 billion. The second threat is to the workforce. The end of freedom of movement will make it harder to attract NHS and social care staff, and it will mean fewer people working in Scotland and therefore contributing tax revenue to public services. You know, at current immigration rates, our working age population is expected to remain stable over the next 25 years, whereas with reduced migration from the EU, it is projected to decline by between 3% and 5%. The UK Government's own Migration Advisory Committee concluded that EU migrants contribute more to the health service and social care than they use in services. And they accepted that the care sector would face even more serious challenges if migration from the EU was restricted. Yet that is precisely the scenario that this sector faces. In this election, the Tories are deliberately and shamefully giving the impression that our fellow EU citizens are a burden on our NHS instead of a vital support. That is a disgrace, and it really has to stop. The third threat comes from the Tory power grab on the Scottish Parliament in their pursuit of their Brexit vision, or nightmare to some of us. Remember, the Tories fought tooth and nail against devolution in the first place. Don't ever forget that. The so-called Tory detoxification strategy, designed to convince voters in Scotland that the Tories now embrace devolution, has proved to be very short-lived. They've already used Brexit to grab powers from the Scottish Parliament. They've legislated for the first time ever on devolved matters without the consent of MSPs. They've even taken the Scottish Government to court in an attempt to strike down an act of the Scottish Parliament. They're also threatening to take charge of funding in devolved areas currently controlled by the Scottish Government under the EU Structural Funds programme. You know, with the right wing of the Tory party in full cry, can anyone have any confidence that there won't be a further power grab attempt on Scotland's Parliament as UK-wide they compromise on workers' rights and environmental standards? After all, the Tories are desperate to do a trade deal with Donald Trump. That could mean large rises in the cost of NHS drugs. President Trump has said everything, including the NHS, is on the table. In government, the Tories have made it clear they're prepared to rip up the devolution settlement if it gets in the way of Brexit. So we should be in no doubt that they would do the same if devolution got in the way of a Trump trade deal. Now, of course, SNP MPs will do everything they can to stop this from happening. The SNP will introduce an NHS protection bill to explicitly protect the health service in all 4 countries of the UK from being a bargaining chip in trade deals. But Scotland's future should not be dependent on the whims of Westminster. So a vote for the SNP is a vote to deprive Boris Johnson of the majority that would enable him to do all of this. But more fundamentally, a vote for the SNP is a vote to escape Brexit and the threats it poses to our economy and public services, and it is a vote to secure the right to choose our own future. And if the future we then choose is as an independent member of the EU, we will be able to take full advantage of the single market, currently around 8 times the size of the UK alone. If we look at Ireland, it is striking how the combination of independence and EU membership led to huge economic gains. As an independent country, Scotland would be in a unique position to act as a bridge between the rest of the UK and the EU, making us a magnet for global investment, which in turn would boost growth and tax revenue for public services. A vote for the SNP is also a vote for a migration policy tailored to our needs. We can end the hostile environment. We can retain freedom of movement. The SNP government has made it clear just how much we value those from the EU and elsewhere who contribute to our NHS and public services. With control over Scottish migration policy here in Scotland, we will have the means to ensure that we remain an attractive destination for people who want to build a life and make a contribution to our country. A vote for the SNP is also a vote to end the democratic outrage of Westminster Tory governments with no mandate in Scotland, to move on from the right-wing Tories itching to get their hands on devolution. And of course, a vote for the SNP is a vote to protect Scotland from being at the mercy of a Donald Trump trade deal. It is instead a chance to secure a future as part of the world's biggest trading bloc in which all members have to give their consent to trade deals. Compare that to the way Scotland has been ignored by Westminster. In government in Holyrood, the SNP is working hard to improve our health service, our schools and our police service. We're working with others across Scotland to improve lives. We've introduced a progressive tax system and we are determined to keep public services in public hands. But all of that progress is at risk if Boris Johnson gets the majority he is seeking. So at this election, there is no doubt that Scotland is facing a crucial question. Who should decide our future? Should it be the people who live here or the likes of Boris Johnson? With a vote for the SNP, we can deprive the Tories of the free hand that they so desperately want. We can protect the right of the people of Scotland to decide their own future. We can stand up against Brexit and the threats it poses to our public services. We can escape the Westminster chaos and an emboldened right-wing Tory government. And we can win that right to choose the future we want for this and future generations. So my message at this election is clear and at its heart it is simple. Vote SNP for a better country and to put Scotland's future into Scotland's hands. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to take a few questions from our friends in the media. I'll start with Glenn Campbell.
First Minister, if you manage to stop Brexit, will you not deny yourself the justification for an independence referendum next year?
Before I answer your question, Glenn, can I take the opportunity to embarrass somebody in the audience? I meant to do it in my speech. Jerry Moriarty is celebrating his 23rd birthday today, so happy birthday, Jerry. My apologies, Glenn, I'll come to your question. It's not your birthday as well, is it? No. Good. No is the short answer to that. The proposition I'm putting to the people of Scotland in this election is that Brexit illustrates why we need to be in charge of our own future. As I said in my remarks, Brexit is the most extreme example of the broken nature of the Westminster system for Scotland, but it is only one example, one illustration. Even if Brexit is stopped and the UK remains, there is no guarantee that down the line we're not back there. You know, people like Nigel Farage are not simply going to pack up and go away. there is no guarantee that we don't have other policies imposed on us by a Tory government that we don't vote for. So Brexit has brought into sharp relief this fundamental question. If we want Scotland to be the country we all believe it can be, then how do we best secure that? Do we best secure that by allowing people like Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage, even Jeremy Corbyn to determine Scotland's path and what kind of country we are, or do we take that future into our own hands and decide these things for ourselves? And I think increasingly people in Scotland are seeing the benefit of being in charge of our own destiny. Libby.
First Minister, during last night's television debates, Boris Johnson said that he believed that the SNP had already done a deal with Jeremy Corbyn on a second independence referendum. Jeremy Corbyn said that that was nonsense. Then this morning, Humza Yousaf said that he believes that Labour will agree to an independence referendum in 2020. Can you clarify who is telling the truth on this, please?
Well, I was going to say it's actually possible for all these things to be true, but when Boris Johnson is in the sentence, it's probably unlikely that what he's saying... actually kind of... sort of amuses, this is not directed at you, Libby, incidentally, but it kind of amuses me that given his record as Prime Minister so far, anybody is still prepared to believe a single word that comes out of Boris Johnson's mouth. Anyway, that is me going off at a bit of a tangent. There is no deal with Jeremy Corbyn. The conversations I've had with Jeremy Corbyn in recent months, the most recent of those was just before the election was called in Westminster, have been about Brexit, about how the opposition parties at Westminster were trying to come together to stop Brexit and to find a better way forward. The most recent discussion was also about, how we could get the issue taken to a general election, which we are now in. But as Humza Yousaf said, I do believe if the parliamentary arithmetic enables this, then Jeremy Corbyn is not going to turn his back on an opportunity for a UK Labour government just because he's determined to block the right of the Scottish people to choose their own future. It would take a lot of explaining from him if he was to say, no, I'm going to walk away from this opportunity. Why am I going to do that? Because I want to veto Scotland's right to self-determination. This is a man who favours self-determination for virtually every other country on the face of the planet. It would be a bit odd if he was to give up his chance at government. I'm not asking for anything unreasonable here. I'm not asking Labour or anybody to suddenly support independence. I'm not even demanding that Labour MSPs in the Scottish Parliament vote for an independence referendum. I'm simply making the point that we should not find it difficult to get Westminster politicians to accept that the question of independence, the question of whether there should be another referendum and on what timescale, are decisions for the people of Scotland through our democratically elected Parliament. And that's the proposition I'm putting forward in this election. And it is an election, so it's an opportunity for people in Scotland to send that message to Jeremy Corbyn and to Boris Johnson that our future is not up to them, our future is up to us.
Thank you, First Minister. Craig Payton from the Press Association. You said that Westminster will be engulfed by Brexit for many years to come. If Scotland does vote to become an independent country through a referendum, how long will that process take? And do you believe that the process or the matter will be put to bed after a vote to leave the United Kingdom?
I believe when we have the opportunity to choose our future again, people in Scotland will opt for independence. I know and I can understand why particularly proponents of Brexit want to make this sort of draw the analogy between the Brexit process and independence. But much as I oppose Brexit, and I really oppose Brexit in principle as well as for all the practical reasons I've been talking about, there was nothing inevitable about the mess that the Brexit process became. That was down to the fact that those who advocated leave in the referendum didn't put any detail of what it would mean in practice, of the trade-offs and compromises that would be required to implement that before people. Then, after the vote, we had Theresa May come in as Prime Minister and immediately put forward a whole series of contradictory red lines that still tried to pull the wool over people's eyes and avoid telling people what the realities of the situation would be. Contrast that with the independence referendum in 2014. There was a detailed prospectus. Of course, not everybody agreed with it, and there was vigorous debate about the detail of that, but it was there for people to judge. We were very upfront, at times very controversially, about some of the compromises and trade-offs. The currency union, for example, was perhaps the foremost example of that, and we had very detailed plans in place to manage our way through a transition. There was a whole floor in St Andrew's House with a transition team ready to go. That was one of the more heartbreaking moments of the day after the referendum, was standing that down. But we had done the planning, and we will do so again. And let us not allow the charlatans who were dishonest with people over Brexit to somehow suggest that constitutional change has to be that way. It was that way and is that way with Brexit because of their dishonesty and their lack of planning. And these are mistakes the independence campaign didn't make in 2014 and will not make in future. I am not seeing, my eyesight is not great, so I'm... Any other questions before I... Sorry, are you... Right, okay, front here, yeah.
I'm John Green from the Telegraph here in Dundee. You know, you've obviously said, both yourself and Mr Hosey have said this morning that you were keen to lock Boris out in this general election. But if it comes down to the wire and there has to be an element of compromise with the Labour Party in order to stop them from getting back into number 10, would there be any redrawing of the red lines on, for example, calling a fresh independence referendum?
I'm sure if it came to that, there'd be plenty of redrawing of the red lines on the part of Jeremy Corbyn. Yes. For the reason I said. I mean, does any... And that said, Jeremy Corbyn's red line on an independence referendum has been pretty pink of late. But, I mean, to be serious, does anybody really believe, is it a credible proposition to say that Labour are going to get themselves, against all the odds, against all of the predictions, into a position of being able to form a government, and then they're going to say no to that, and the reason they're going to give? Jeremy Corbyn actually, if you can make any sense out of what he has said, he's kind of accepted the principle of Scotland being in charge of its own future. He's quibbling now about the timescale. So we're expected to believe that he's going to walk away from his chance at a Labour government just because he's not prepared to accept the timescale that the Scottish Parliament wants. I don't believe that is going to happen. But, you know, as I say, this is an election. People in Scotland have the chance to send the strongest, loudest possible message by voting SNP that whether they support independence or oppose independence or are still undecided on independence, that fundamental point of principle that the people of Scotland should decide our own future, not Westminster, is one that we adhere to. Right, any questions? Okay.
Michael Blackley from the Daily Mail. You said in your speech that a lot of people in Scotland are heartily sick of Brexit. Do you have any concern that many of those people will also dread the prospect of another independence referendum? And just to pick up on the previous question, do you still believe that it would take 18 months to negotiate independence from the rest of the UK?
I believe if we do the planning properly, then the process of independence can be completely different to the experience of Brexit. And of course, we will set out, as we did in 2014, the detailed case for people to make an informed judgment. On the first part of your question, you know, we're in an election campaign. I have to say, travelling around the country, as I've been doing now for the past couple of weeks, to every corner of the country, I detect real enthusiasm and optimism about the SNP's message in this election. We take nothing for granted, but people in this election, whatever their views on independence, have a chance to make it clear that the future of our country should be determined here, not by Boris Johnson. And that is the central question. If we don't make that clear in this election, then Boris Johnson gets the chance to decide what path we go down and what kind of country we want to be. And we can, I think, be fairly confident if that happens, it will not be the kind of country the majority of people in Scotland want to see. So let's get out there for the remainder of this campaign and get that message across. Let's decide our future. Whatever it turns out to be, let's decide it here in Scotland. Thank you very much indeed.
Next month, you will have your say in the general election. Tonight, this audience has questions for the leader of Plaid Cymru, Adam Price. But will they get the answers? Welcome to Ask the Leader. Good evening, Croeso. Welcome to the Temple of Peace and Health in Cardiff. Well, in just over 3 weeks, Wales goes to the polls in what's considered to be the most significant general election for a generation. Tonight, we are joined by an audience keen to put their questions to the leader of Plaid Cymru over the next half hour. They represent a wide range of viewpoints, and Adam Price has had no prior warning of the questions. Later this week, there will be audience programmes with other party leaders. And if you're watching at home or online, you too can join the debate on social media. The hashtag is #AskTheLeader. Well, straight to our first question then, which tonight comes from Evan Hall. Evan.
Wales voted to leave. Even if things have changed, is Plaid Cymru ignoring the will of the British people or the Welsh people?
Well, you know, I think the fundamental commandment, if you like, of any politician is to be honest. And when people ask me, you know, is Brexit going to help Wales or is it going to hurt Wales? I have to say it's going to hurt Wales, you know. And it's probably going to hurt Wales more than other parts of the UK because of the nature of our economy. You know, we export more proportionally to the EU than other parts of the UK. You know, think about key sectors: agriculture, aerospace, the automotive sector, the bedrock of our economy. And you know, I've seen what deindustrialization can do to Wales. You know, my father went underground when he was 14. He was thrown on the slag heap economically in the 1980s. And I don't want to see any other family go through what we had to experience in the 1980s if there's any way of avoiding that sort of economic disaster. So, you know, I want us to grasp every opportunity that we can to avert what I think will be, you know, tremendously difficult for Wales. You know, it'll decimate our agricultural sector. You know, it'll rock the foundations of our manufacturing sector. And we're even teetering now, aren't we? Look at what's happening with Ford. Look at what's happening with Tata. You know, I want to see the Welsh economy rising. I want to see a decade of transformation. You know, we can go from where we are. We're at the bottom of the economic league table in the UK at the moment. But, you know, we don't have to accept that. You know, we can invest in the skills of our people. We can invest in our infrastructure. We could be at the forefront of the green industrial revolution, just like we were with the original one a few hundred years ago. But all of that will be so much more difficult if at the start of that decade, you know, we have a Brexit deal, whether it's a Labour Brexit or a Conservative Brexit, which will actually, you know, cause untold damage to our economy. And, you know, the Party of Wales has to actually defend Wales, and we have to be honest with the people as well.
Launching this general election campaign, you said you wanted to heal a broken country. How can you bring a country together by ignoring the majority of the voters in the referendum? I
don't think anyone should ignore that, you know, leave a vote, and that's why I think it's only the people that can actually change that mandate, and that's why I feel
but
democratically...
what are you doing to reach out to leave voters?
Well, look, I think that leave vote, I mean, everyone will have a different reason personally for the leave vote, but I think much of it was a sense of exasperation, right? You know, Wales, which has seen intergenerational poverty decade after decade, we've been neglected. You know, there is deep poverty within our society, and I think people were voting for Brexit, many of them, because they wanted change. Unfortunately, this change, the Brexit that's on offer, will not deliver the kind of improvement that we need. So we need a better change project.
These voters were wrong, and in all your target seats, more or less, they're in leave areas. You're trying to woo voters by telling them they were wrong. How does that work?
Well, look, I think that people respect politicians that are clear and honest. I don't think that you can go into this election as Jeremy Corbyn is doing and by refusing to say where he stands on the single most important issue at the heart of the election. I think that we can respect each other while we sincerely disagree, but I have to be honest, I have to say it as I believe it is. You know, I didn't go into politics to tell people what I thought they wanted to hear. I went into politics to say, you know, clearly and honestly what I believe, and it's then for the people to decide whether they agree.
Okay, let's see if you'd agree. The gentleman in the back.
You say that you're the party of Wales, representing Wales's interests, but you're conspiring with other parties to not stand in certain seats. How can you call yourself the party of Wales? You're just trying to stop us from leaving the EU. I'd say you're more like the party of Brussels.
Okay, let's take some other points. Who else had their hand up? Yes, the gentleman there.
Isn't the rest of the world a big enough platform to sell our goods and our skills?
And in the front here?
Nosydd Adam, you're making the economic arguments again. These are the failed arguments of 2016. I voted Remain, you know, with some troubles over the economy. But what about the political fallout that's going to happen if you don't respect referendums? You believe the devolution referendums are sacrosanct. Why is this one so easily cast away?
Okay. Can you take that point? Because I'm sure we will come on to pacts later and any deals with other parties. But this point here and the gentleman in the back there.
I think there was a fatal flaw, you know, honestly, at the heart of the 2016 referendum, because partly because it was put forward by a Conservative Prime Minister that didn't believe in the proposition, you know, the proposition to leave at the heart of the referendum. And so there was no plan behind it. You know, the work hadn't been done. And I think much of the chaos and the going round in circles over the last 3.5 years stems from that fatal flaw. You know, there was no precise version of Brexit, and there were many different versions. And so in this election, we even have Nigel Farage as an ultra-Brexiteer, might have done a U-turn since, but saying at the beginning of the campaign that the Brexit deal on offer was almost or virtually worse than remaining in the European Union, because he regarded it as Brexit in name only. The only way to resolve this, I think, is to put a deal, the deal that's on the table, back to the people, because then it is clear what people are choosing, the precise terms of the Brexit deal on offer versus, of course, the alternative, which is remaining in the European Union. The only way to test where the public is on that question now is, of course, taking it back to the people in a final confirmatory referendum.
Okay. Somebody mentioned pacts here. Let's take a second question.
I addressed this question.
Well, very briefly, and then we need to move on to the next question.
Look, I understand and I respect people who sincerely want Wales to have a different relationship with the European Union. And, you know, when we're an independent country in the future, the people of Wales can decide that. What I would urge people is this, right? Do we really want to take power from Brussels, as you say, and put it in the hands of Westminster politicians? You know, what have they ever done? Well, you know, seriously, I mean, you know, it wasn't. Look, was it Brussels that closed the mines that my father used to work in the 1980s? It was Westminster government that actually didn't care anything about Wales. We seriously want to give all of that power and put it in the hands of Westminster parties and Westminster governments that don't care less about Wales.
The ones that we elect.
No, I don't think
we get to transfer.
Thank you very much. We need to move on to our second question. Let's go now to Dilys Davis. Dilys.
Hello, good evening. A pact with other Remain parties means that you'll be standing down in a number of seats. Where does that leave Plaid voters who don't want to vote for a Unionist party?
I understand, you know, it was a very difficult decision for us to make, and I understand, you know, the sacrifice that was being asked of our members, our candidates, and indeed our supporters in those seats. We came to the conclusion, Dilys, you know, that this exceptional times call for exceptional actions. You know, it's not something that we would have done lightly. It's important to point out, of course, that in 7 of those seats, the Unionist parties are standing down in favour of Plaid, and that gives us an opportunity to return the highest number of Plaid MPs, you know, members from Wales's party, the strongest ever independent voice for Wales at Westminster ever in history, So let's grasp that opportunity, which is an incredibly important one at such a historic juncture. But ultimately, you know, Plaid Cymru, what does it mean? It means the party of Wales. We always put Wales before our party. Wales is interests, the national interest, which at this time we believe strongly that it is so important that we grasp every opportunity for Wales to stay in the European Union. And if working together with the other pro-Remain parties maximises that opportunity for Wales, then that's the right thing to do, because we should always put Wales's interests first.
Mr. Price, what about the one pact that you know that could prevent Brexit, which is doing a deal in the event of a hung parliament and supporting Jeremy Corbyn's bid to get into Downing Street? Would you do that?
Well, look, if you do want Wales to remain in the European Union, right, there's only one way that's going to happen, and that's if we elect the strongest, in Wales's case, the strongest number, the highest number ever of Plaid Cymru MPs across the whole of the UK. We need to have a big third block of MPs from the pro-Remain parties.
Yeah.
That's the one that's going to make the difference, because
But would you prefer to see Jeremy Corbyn in Downing Street rather than Boris Johnson? Because you know, with the best will in the world, you're not going to get there. So who can stop Brexit?
Well, I think it's the people, if they choose to support the pro-Remain parties.
Well, you know, with Boris Johnson, it's leaving at the end of January.
For me,
with Jeremy Corbyn, he would buy time, maybe another referendum, but he is the one who can stop your hated Brexit, as you put it.
I disagree. Well, I'm afraid I don't have any confidence in Jeremy Corbyn on this issue. I don't want to.
You wouldn't do a deal?
Because he himself has repeatedly refused to say whether he is even in principle in favour of remaining in the European Union.
But Nicola Sturgeon is willing to hold her nose, if you like, and she said, well, if it takes Jeremy Corbyn, then she'll look at it, and her price would be a second referendum. Would you put a price on, let's say he's 4 short to get into Downing Street. He turns to you and he says, Mr. Price, can I count on you? What do you want? What would be your price?
Look, I don't think that the Labour Party or a Labour government is going to solve all of Wales's problems. In Wales, of course, Labour is part of the problem because they are the governing party in Wales.
So it's better to have Boris Johnson then in Downing Street?
No. Look, I mean, it's a false choice, right? I mean, we've had Conservative governments, we've had Labour governments. They've all let us down, despite the fact for 100 years the people of Wales have put their faith in the Labour Party. That's not how Wales is going to deliver change. Look, they talk about a Green New Deal and a Clean Air Act that they're going to introduce. The Welsh Labour government was taken to court because of its failures over pollution. 2,000 people that die in Wales, 200 in this city because of the failures of a Labour government. They talk about banning 0 hours contracts. The Labour government voted 7 times against Plaid Cymru's motion to ban 0 hours contracts. So I'm afraid I don't trust that the Labour Party is going to solve our problems. Now, what we are prepared to do is to work on a case-by-case basis. Look, I will work with anyone to advance the case of Wales, and whether it's on the question of a referendum or on any other issue, sending the strongest group of independent MPs from Wales being our champions nationally and locally. That's how we deliver change for Wales.
So just to be absolutely clear,
not putting our faith...
Because this question is about pacts.
Yes, let's not put our faith in the Westminster parties.
On a case-by-case basis, you would look at the potential of working with Mr. Corbyn in the event of a hung parliament?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who knocks on our door, we will want to see how we can advance the case of Wales, not by propping them up, by standing up for Wales.
So not a coalition, but a case-by-case, deal-by-deal.
Absolutely, because that's how we can use our leverage. You know, by sending the strongest group of Plaid MPs there, we can get Wales on the political landscape in a way that hasn't happened for generations.
Let's take this gentleman in the front here.
Well, I'm happily retired, and I've got nothing better to do than to watch the political programmes and to read the newspapers. What's come clear to me is that the message you're giving tonight, one which I wholeheartedly support because I think is reasonable and it's well thought out, is completely absent from the daily news programmes. It's either Corbyn or Boris Johnson. Occasionally you get a comment from the SNP, sometimes Northern Ireland. Virtually nothing from Wales, and the same with the newspapers. Sunday Times, I'm sure you all read it. Nothing about Wales at all. Whether it's a Brexit Wales or a Labour Wales or a Tory Wales or Lib Dem Wales, we don't hear their views at all. And I wondered how you propose to actually get your view that you've expressed tonight over to this great number of Brexit individuals who voted for Brexit in Wales. How are you going to get it over if really your message is closed down?
Live on BBC One at the moment, so this might be a good place.
You're absolutely right, isn't it? I mean, Wales isn't even a blip on the political radar, unfortunately, for the Westminster parties and indeed for the media. I mean, there's another debate on another channel tonight, isn't there? But nobody in Wales will be watching because we'll all be watching the football. But, the fact that we have two English party leaders there, will Wales even be mentioned in that debate? I doubt it. And the only way that we can actually become a priority is if we find our own voice. Look at the difference. Okay. Since Scotland voted in ever greater numbers for the SNP, then Scotland became a key issue on the British political stage. And that's the opportunity for us in Wales.
From the audience, thank you. Gentleman here, and then the gentleman there. Thank you.
Adam, I will vociferously and loudly and proudly say I voted Leave, right? I will say this with passion right now. People that voted Remain imply that we're fascists, that we are right-wing, that we are uneducated, and you argue that we didn't know what we voted for, and I know exactly what I voted for. What I'm going to ask you, and Jo Swinson, if she's watching, if you're going to defy the will of 17 million people that conclusively, democratically voted to leave the EU, the corrupt, self-serving EU, as I call it, doesn't that make you a fascist and Jo Swinson fascist?
Thank you very much. Yeah. Let's take another point.
Can
I just take another point very quickly?
So, Adam, you've talked about Labour being part of the problem in Wales, and we've heard some of the stuff about the media. So it seems to be a theme of the devolution settlement at the moment, that it's basically finger-pointing down the M4 between Cardiff Bay and Westminster and the two different governments. How do we increase accountability under devolution so that people understand where these decisions are being made?
Well, I think this is critical, isn't it? Because, look, we either accept that it is inevitable that we stay where we are, bumping along at that bottom of the economic league table, or we change things, And the real change that we need in Wales is for us to take responsibility, for our own future, right? The solutions ultimately are not going to come from Westminster. They never have and they never will. The solutions will only come from Wales, and there's no problem in Wales that we can't fix. And look, I have Leavers in my own family, and I have Leave supporters that are friends, and we're still friends, and we can agree to disagree civilly, and I think that's important as well, that we have that mutual respect, right? We are a divided country, it seems, on that question, right? But I think we can be united by hope in a better future for our country, because wherever we disagree on that question, right, surely we can all agree we should not accept the inevitability of our poverty as a country. That's been the legacy, unfortunately, of putting our faith in those Westminster political parties for too long. There's nothing inevitable about it. We can change Wales, but the first step is starting to believe in ourselves, having self-confidence, and then getting those powers, those economic powers, Wales's infrastructure, the transport infrastructure, terrible. Have you trying to even get into work on Transport for Wales trains at the moment, is an odyssey, right? We can change that, but we can only change it if, for example, we got the power to borrow, to invest in creating a better infrastructure. Westminster government only allows us to borrow just over £1 billion at a time when interest rates are at a historic low. We could massively be investing in our infrastructure to give us the platform to be a successful country that I know that we can be.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think it's time for our next question that comes from Becky Newsom. Becky.
Noswaith dda. The UK has never been more divided or fragile. Is nationalism the answer?
Before you answer, Adam, what do you think, Becky? I mean, how do you view nationalism?
Well, I want a better future for Wales. I mean that in terms of investment, prosperity, Wales having greater say over its future. But Wales, like the rest of the UK, is very divided. And I look at nationalism in other countries like the US, France, even over in England. And nationalism doesn't bring divided communities together. It stokes hatred and increases division. So yes, I want a better future for Wales, but I also want a Wales that is tolerant, inclusive and welcoming. So if I was going to lend my support to any party, there'd need to be a plan how we can have both of those things.
I think that's a great question. And, you know, it goes to the core of the moment that we're going through. And, you know, in some ways, it has been a dark time in politics, hasn't it? You know, I see the kind of vision that we're trying to propose, because I think, you know, politics is about practical dreams. I think people need a bit of inspiration at the moment. You know, it feels like a second winter of discontent, this election, doesn't it? You know, but even in the midst of these dark nights of this election, right? I think we can inspire people with a different vision of a Wales that is prosperous, that is outward-looking, that is inclusive, that celebrates all the talent of everyone that lives here. I think there's a very, very different vision of the future at the moment, isn't there, in the Conservative Party and the Brexit Party, etc., which is the opposite of that, you know, backward-looking, inward-looking, insular, etc., you know, looking back to a golden age that never existed. I think that we can create an exciting idea, which is of an independent Wales, but, you know, the excitement is about what we could achieve with that independence. What is it for? We could actually become a socially just nation. Instead of, you know, where we've always been, which is behind the curve, we could be at the leading edge in terms of the green industrial revolution. You know, and people might not know this, but we have around the Welsh coast 15% of all of Europe's marine energy, whether we're inside the EU or not, you know. But we're not tapping into that potential at the moment. Why? Because we don't have the power to invest in it. But we could get in there. We could be at the ground level of a great green industrial revolution across the globe. And that's just one example of what we could do. You know, it's an exciting idea, I think, because if we start to think about what Wales could be as a confident, successful, prosperous, independent, socially just country, then people start to think, look, all of the things that we thought were normal when we were growing up in Wales, the last few 40 years, etc., we don't have to accept them. We could abolish homelessness. We could abolish child poverty. There are 200,000 of our children that live in poverty. And we could start now. We could introduce a Welsh child payment, you know, in next year that would lift 50,000 of our children out of poverty as a down payment of the kind of country that we want to be.
Okay, Mr. Pratt, I think everybody would agree that leaving one union is taking a lot of time, maybe a lot longer than some people thought. Let's look at the timescale of independence. You want it within